All right, what is going on, everybody? This is Rand Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with a new episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And I'm with my buddy, the one and only Jez Corden of Windows Central, who's going to have to apologize because he's the reason we didn't have a podcast last week, even though I was all prepared to do it. And he canceled on me last minute. And then he was like, you know what? We can't even do it Saturday either. So apologize to the people, Jez.
I'm sorry, people. I can't even remember why I've canceled it now. Was I just super tired? I can't even remember. Man, the last couple of weeks have been a complete blur for me. And back in the saddle now, though. Gonna get rock and roll and podcast on a Friday, a rare Friday. We actually managed to do on a Friday. Who'd have thought? I've slept. I've sort of had a little bit of a break, and I feel actually like I've got some energy now. So, yeah, podcast is back. Thank God.
Podcast is indeed back, and it's great to be back on a Friday and see all the lovely people in chat who missed us. You know, because sometimes you're just like, nobody's gonna care if Xbox 2 doesn't have a show, but then, you know, people do get upset. I mean, hell, people are upset that I haven't released a video in 2 months. You know, like they.
Well, you should change that.
I know. Well, it is going to be changed because I feel like a new man today, Jez. I feel different.
Why is that?
Well, before we get into that, before we talk about that stuff, before we get into the big topics and maybe even some Jez leaks, which we were supposed to talk about last week, but we didn't. Is this podcast sponsored by anybody this week, Jez? Is it powered by people, perhaps?
It actually is powered by someone. And no awards for finding out who it is. But this week's podcast is once again sponsored by Manscaped.com. You feel that, Rand? Summer is on the way. There's spring in the air. And temperatures are rising. And you know, higher temperatures means sweaty balls. Enhance your man parts.
We don't want sweaty balls. We definitely don't want sweaty balls.
No, we don't. So you can enhance your man parts with Manscaped. 20% off. Free worldwide shipping. Use our checkout code XB2. That's XB and the number 2. 20% off all razors, boxers, cologne, much, much more at Manscaped.com. And thanks again to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. But yes, Rand, it is getting pretty warm and toasty downstairs in Germany, South Germany. Does it get warm in Chicago, Rand?
I mean, it eventually does get extremely hot in Chicago. We're very much extreme sides of the weather. During the winter, it gets cold as a witch's titty out there. Anybody who lives around here knows just how cold Chicago can get during the year. However, it also can get extremely hot too, especially during like the July 4th weekend. Like, so we're on those two extremes. We get really, really cold and really, really hot. And yeah, sweaty balls is not something to mess around with. So
hell no.
Manscaped, XB2 in the checkout, 20% off worldwide. You know, when you use it. So appreciate them for sponsoring the podcast. Appreciate everyone being here. Like Rand Jez, who's been a member for 19 months. He says he missed us really much. The Outbreak Podcast. Pong Soul. He's always here. Pong Soul's always here. Boxenberger. Flame. A lot of great people in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. And we're sorry for missing last week. I'm sorry for not releasing any videos the past 2 months. But that's changing because I feel like a different man, Jez. And it's too bad I couldn't really tie this in with Manscaped, but, you know, so I haven't gotten a haircut or shaved my beard in, 3 months, right? It's been a long time, right? And everybody in my family has been like, you look like Jesus. Right, with the long hair and the beard, and I was fine with it, right? Because the pandemic had happened, and I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to go get, I was observing like social distancing, all that good stuff. And then at some point, I just was like, whatever. I got long hair and a long beard now. It's whatever. But I literally woke up.
This is my life now.
Yeah, this is my life now. Look at these bad choices I've made, right? But then, like, the hair got so long where it was like, I'd be eating something and then noticing, like, a piece of hair was in my mouth. Because my hair, you know, like, it just things that would just happen where it was just like my hair would start getting in everything. And then, like,
yeah, I know that feel.
And the beard was getting just unkempt and long. And I just woke up one day and I'm like, I've had enough. God damn it. I've had enough of this. So I literally went to a place. The guy saw me, started laughing and was like, yeah, you haven't gotten your hair cut or your beard trimmed in like, what, 3 years? And I'm like, it's been exactly 3 years. So we got that all done. It's all finished. I posted pictures on Twitter. If anybody wants to see the before and after, I did the, how it's going, how it started, how it's going. And people were even like, man, you look like you're ready to be on cam. And, Jez has kind of been like, if you want to do Xbox 2 on cam, we could do it. And I got Cold Eastwood. I got like Lord Cognito. I got Miles Dompier, who I'll be on with tomorrow for Xbox Chatterdays talking about JRPGs, which, as everybody knows, is my favorite subject to talk about. They've been pushing me to get on camera. And I think I did say in this podcast that I will get on camera. And I was like, once we hit 100,000 subscribers, I'll be on camera. Maybe we'll do it beforehand. I don't know. I feel like a better man. I feel like a new man. So maybe make some changes around here. So we'll see. That's why, the past couple months I just kind of been burnt out. I haven't really wanted to do much. Didn't really feel the need to make any videos. Just kind of, I don't know, maybe stress is the right word, but definitely just kind of, I had a lack of enthusiasm for a lot of things going around, right?
Subdued.
Yeah, so I just didn't, but we kept doing the podcast because I love doing the show with you and I love seeing everybody in the chat. So I was like, we'll keep doing the podcast, and then, when I feel energized again, when I feel like I want to do it, because I don't want to do anything because I feel forced, because that's not why I started doing this in the first place. You know what I mean? I didn't start YouTube as a job or some sort of financial commitment. I started it because I wanted to have fun, and I just really wasn't having fun anymore. It felt more like a commitment, and it was just like, I need to kind of, re-examine everything and just kind of like wait till I feel better about it. And I do now, so you'll see videos popping up real soon. So yeah, but the one thing I always loved doing, Jez, was love doing the podcast with you and everybody in chat. So that's why we kept on doing it. So yeah,
same way. I felt literally the same. Like the last few weeks, like just sort of, there hasn't been like much major news coming out of the Xbox camp, and it just kind of feels like, I don't know, the state of the world's in, frankly, is sort of weighed on a lot of things. But you gotta, sometimes you just sort of have to re-examine and take a step back and then rediscover why you love doing these kind of things in the first place. And so yeah, onwards and upwards and all that good stuff.
Man, what are you playing right now? Because I can hear the sticks. I hear the sticks being played. I know you're playing something. What is it? What are you playing?
I'm playing Overwatch. Overwatch.
Man, you're really getting into
my go-to
to that Blizzard acquisition. You're loving it. And like back playing World of Warcraft again.
Yeah. I've even been playing Hearthstone. I've got it bad right now. I actually am on a big Blizzard kick at the moment, but there's a reason for it, Rand. There's a reason for it.
Why? What's the reason? Tell us.
I'm just really excited about the future of Blizzard.
And before Jez says anything, would you guys do us a big favor? If you're enjoying the show, if you're just getting in here, make sure you smash that like button. Will Smith that like button, right? Will Smith it.
Will Smith it?
Just Will Smith it, slap it around a little bit. Hit that like button. Share this podcast out. Let everybody know we're live once again. But is there any particular reason why you're excited about Blizzard's future, Jez? Outside of like the unexpected survival game, do you have any Anything you would like to share?
Man, the things I'd like to share. There's a lot I would like to share, but I've got a load of reasons to be excited about the future of Blizzard right now. I've always been a big Blizzard fan. Everyone knows who's been listening to this show for a while. I've been playing World of Warcraft since it launched, like, what, 16, 17 years ago now. I even played in the American beta, so I've been playing it even longer than the game's been launched. And the new World of Warcraft expansion is being announced next week, so I'm really excited about that. Even though every bone in my body tells me to, limit my enthusiasm, because Blizzard ain't been doing that great the last few years. They've lost 2/3 of their maximum monthly active users across, like, Overwatch and, like, all their games, because Kotick's just a terrible CEO. He's been cutting corners, and a lot of Blizzard games have been going downhill. Loads of people left, and then obviously there's the big lawsuit, which has cost them huge amount of their veteran devs and stuff like that. And but with Microsoft going to acquire them, like, it kind of feels like their priorities have shifted a little bit. It feels like they're investing more because they don't have to worry about the shareholders so much anymore. They can just hopefully get back to driving value and innovation and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited about the future from that perspective, but also I've seen some of the projects that
have you? Have you seen some of them?
I'm not going to go into details about this because, I don't want to, spoil it. But
okay.
I've seen some of the games they've got coming up, and I'm really excited for them. Some of them have been announced, some of them haven't been announced. Blizzard's lineup is looking really fire right now, frankly. And Diablo, what we've seen of Diablo 4 looks incredible. And what I've heard about the next WoW expansion sounds really good as well. I'm just really excited. I've even been playing Hearthstone, right? I've been playing Hearthstone. I got it bad right now.
You do have it real bad.
Yeah. So I am hopeful that this deal goes through, because I think Microsoft is the right company to take, Blizzard away from Kotick. Microsoft was voted the #1 workplace in the, top 100 companies by revenue or something like that. And, that's kind of what Blizzard needs. They need something to turn the corner, put the horribleness of the last stuff behind everything, and get to the move towards a brighter future. And I'm hopeful for that.
Good. Shout out to Hero who's been a channel member for 3 months. He says, "Happy Friday, gents. Did you hear Microsoft is taking all the chips? Even the sour cream and onion ones. Can't wait for Randall Cam." Yeah, there's a lot of people wanting Randall Cam. Maybe maybe with the new look, maybe it's one of those things where it's like, instead of this long ass beard and long hair I have, maybe I am more presentable now. We'll see. So RDX Son of Fett says, "Jazz, is there not an infinite Halo game still?" We do have some information about Halo Infinite that we'll talk about a little bit later, right?
Yeah, we're gonna get into some Halo Infinite stuff, I think.
Yes, definitely. He also says, "What you know about it? Can you dig up stuff?" Jez knows some things about the Halo Infinite Certain Affinity partnership, which we'll definitely be talking about because that was announced this past week. Which I didn't think it was that strange, because Certain Affinity has been helping out with Halo for quite some time. I mean, pretty much ever since they were formed back in 2006. So it's not a surprise they're continuing to work with them. Maybe what is a surprise is they're maybe like taking on a bigger role. And you know what? I'll just say it right now. Microsoft needs to acquire Certain Affinity.
Yeah, they do.
They need to like go out there and just purchase them. And they should do that right now, honestly, because like nobody's going to care about Certain Affinity getting acquired. But they've been helping out on Halo for years. And as you leaked previously, or maybe it was the Grub. They're also working on a new IP for Xbox, the Monster Hunter clone, right? The Monster Hunter game.
Yes.
So maybe they're probably, I don't know. There's like a lot of these studios that Xbox is working with, where everybody's like, all right, Crystal Dynamics, Ion Interactive, Avalanche, Certain Affinity, Stoic, and everybody's like, maybe you should acquire these studios, now rather than later. But I think Xbox is probably waiting to see how those games, how the milestones are hit. Because one of the things I know about Phil was he's a very stickler for things remaining on schedule. You don't like it when things slip milestones after milestones. So I guess we'll have to see how those games progress. But I'm not surprised Certain Affinity is taking on a bigger relationship with, because Halo Infinite needs it. The funny thing is like every day I log into Twitter or whatever, and I'll check it here and there. And a lot of it's like, hey, Halo Infinite is dead on PC, which it doesn't have the highest player count numbers, right? The last one was basically, hey, Master Chief Collection has more players, and they use the PC numbers as definitive proof that Halo Infinite is dead. And I don't think Halo Infinite's doing well on PC. Clearly, I think the numbers aren't very great. But why does everybody always just kind of poo-poo the Xbox numbers? It's like the game is a success or fail based on the PC side of things, when Halo's always been a console franchise. So I was kind of like, I find it odd that people hyper focus on the PC numbers, and I get why, because it's the only numbers that we ever get realistically, right? But on the Xbox side, like Halo Infinite's still in the top 10, depending on fluctuations with new seasons and new contents between all the different games. And I'm sure when season 2 hits, Halo Infinite will go higher on the charts. So it's like, I always, it's like people just forget about the Xbox side. It's like, well, Halo's dead on PC, and it's like, yeah, it's not doing the best, but it's doing pretty good on Xbox. But nobody ever mentions that at all, really. So, Flame in the super chat says, "Is this an out of season April Fool's joke?" I get that reference. The Xbox 2 on a Friday. This can't be, but nothing beats a traditional Xbox 2 with the Manscaped ab. Love you guys. Yes.
Manscaped.
Good old Manscaped. Miami Magpie member 4 months says, hashtag witches titty. Yeah, let's get that trending. George says, Certain Affinity CEO wants to be acquired by Xbox. I did see that. I don't know if you saw that, Jez.
Yeah, he liked a tweet.
A tweet. So, what do you think that means? That's a pretty public thing,
Yeah. I think it's pretty much obvious that this is what they're going for, really. I think, we'll talk about some of this stuff in a bit, but there's a future where Certain Affinity's another Xbox studio for definite.
Yeah.
Based on what they're working on right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And, I don't know if that's like a tactic, a negotiation tactic. Clearly, they want to be acquired, or at least, the CEO of it. So it's like, come on, Microsoft, what you waiting for? And there's a part of me that thinks they're waiting for the Activision thing. There's a part of me that thinks like they feel like any sort of movement on anything related to them, acquiring new developers or whatever would speak badly on the acquisition. And I think they're just being super, super, super careful. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't buy a Certain Affinity, but like, I think Xbox, because like, I don't know, did you even see, I saw this yesterday where some investment firm is urging Activision shareholders not to approve the acquisition?
Yeah, it's the same group that tried to get Kotick fired. They don't have any sway.
I know they don't. They have like 1% of the stocks. And I imagine with this type of money on the line, of course, people are going to come out of the woodwork and be like, you can't do this. But I don't know. Like, I feel like the people at Xbox with this deal are kind of like crossing their fingers. It's like not wanting this to blow up and, or anything's happening. So they're just doing their best to make sure that the boat doesn't rock back and forth in the water. And you would think getting Certain Affinity wouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but somebody in the Senate or somebody at one of these government agencies might be like, see, they keep on doing it. They're not going to stop. We need to stop them before they start,
Yeah.
Yeah. What else we got here? Teo says, Jez, Windows, Azure, Office, all should have localized teams. Why hasn't Xbox pulled from them? Seeing as they want to be a global company, they might have to invest more or pull from other teams. We were talking about politics before we even started the show over there, right? Like 3 different teams owning, something, and it's kind of hard to get stuff done. Can you explain that to people that don't know what we're talking about?
Yeah, like Microsoft's just this gigantic company with a huge and complicated middle management layer. And middle managers, they're kind of like, I mean, this is vastly oversimplifying things, but it's kind of like a too many chefs spoil the broth scenario where people are sort of defensive over their territory, quote unquote. And it's kind of like, they're like, oh, you can't do that without my say so. And then here are the forms I need to fill in, blah, blah, blah. And everything just slows down. And this isn't just Microsoft. This is any big corporation. It makes things like get slowed down. And I see it in my own company all the time. So Windows Central we used to be in a company that had 4 websites. Now we're in a company with hundreds of websites. And it takes a million years to get any sort of decision approved. Takes a million years to get any sort of expenses covered and stuff like that, because they have to pass through like a million different departments and stuff like that. But it's also partially legal reasons. Like when you're a company as big as Microsoft, you also get scrutinized over everything you do. So a lot of things have legal ramifications that have to be, checked and double checked and triple checked, because if they fall afoul of the wrong law, they can lose like millions and millions of dollars, as we see like Google getting sued to hell in Europe right now for breaking loads of European privacy laws. So yeah, I don't know. It's stuff like localization is going to be slow, but it ultimately depends where Microsoft wants to make those investments. And when it comes to localization, a lot of it is legal issues. It's like how operating as a gigantic company in some different countries, especially one with military contracts like Microsoft has, represents national security concerns for some countries. So it's always going to be complicated on some of that front. So just have to wait. Sorry.
Yeah. LMNP on the Super Chat says, I'm enjoying the chat and always have. I'm excited for the Blizzard properties maybe making appearance in Minecraft. Is Blizzard making Diablo fishing you always wanted, Jez?
Diablo fishing.
I
don't know. Yeah, I would hope so. I can't remember if it's official or not, but it is official that Diablo has crafting systems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's public knowledge or not. But Diablo 4 has crafting systems either way, and maybe one of them would be fishing. I don't know.
Yeah, MB Snake says, Jez, I thought you've said on another stream that you have something special thing to say on the Xbox 2 podcast.
I haven't been on any streams recently.
Well, you do Checkpoint with Miles,
Yeah, but I never mentioned leaking something on.
I did watch the last episode and you mentioned my name.
I did, yeah.
Because you were talking about, because Miles was like, hey, what about a DualSense stuff and an Xbox controller? And you brought up my prediction that the Elite Series 3, whenever they do it, would feature some of that haptic feedback. Yeah. And I'm sticking with it. And that is just a regular, normal prediction that I don't know anything. I just feel like if you're, like, the Elite controllers are, like, the best-selling controllers out there when you look at, like, MPD. And I just feel like they're going to continue to make those controllers. They're going to want to do a Series 3. But, like, what new improvements do you put in these things outside of build quality? What are you putting it to make it better, to make it so you can sell it for $150 and $200 again that you don't already have in a Elite Series 2? And it's like, maybe they can even upcharge. Like normally the Elite is what, $150? You get some other new features.
It's more than that, isn't it?
I thought the Elite Series 2 was like $150 when it came out. Yeah. But what if you could somehow jack up the price to $200 so you even get better margins? And this controller comes with haptic feedback on the grips. Not necessarily adaptive triggers, but haptic feedback. So then you can sell that and then upcharge it for your better margins. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong, and maybe I will be, because I understand the idea of like, well, then if the only people who who have haptic feedback are the small amount of people who buy an Elite controller, like what developer is going to put that in their games? And I get that, but I also kind of thinking like, well, I don't know how many more features they can slap on the Elite Series 3 outside of saying this one won't break after 6 months to get people to buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they can't even do that, because then they'll admit liability for the other controllers that didn't work, and they'll have a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Arigato Sir says, sup guys, what do you think about Microsoft starting an ad program so a company can advertise on Xbox games? Love the show. So that was kind of breaking news right before the show started, was that Xbox is looking to build a advertising platform. Yep. And, you know, I saw some of the responses on Twitter before we started the show, and they're not very positive. And
no,
because who wants more ads? I mean, I don't know. For the longest time, people have always complained about the ads on the Xbox dashboard, right? Here you buy the system, you bring it home, and you're still getting advertised to. But then again, like even on my smart TV, I get ads on, you know, when I'm looking at the home screen or whatever, like there'll be ads there. I think some companies have tried to do this before. I remember there being like billboards in Burnout Revenge, or maybe it was Burnout 3, or was it Burnout Paradise, that had advertising. In fact, I remember like Barack Obama, when he was campaigning for president, had billboards in Burnout Paradise where it was like, vote now for Barack Obama or whatever. So this isn't like necessarily unique because it's been done before, but I wonder how it'll be implemented. Now, before people freak out about, oh my God, ads, like what are they going to do? Like when I start up my next game, I'm going to get a 30-second like ad that I can't skip or something. It doesn't seem to be any of that. It seems to be more in-game things and only based around free-to-play games, which makes sense, because I don't think people are going to stand for that in their premium titles, their $60 or $70 titles, where then it's like you bring it home and then you basically still get advertised to.
The thing is, Microsoft's already done this in premium titles. If you play Quantum Break, there is a lot of product placements in that game.
Product placements are a little bit different than straight up ads, though. I mean, like Kojima in Death Stranding had Monster Energy drinks. You know, like, I
think this is partially what it is, though. Like building up an ad network, it doesn't necessarily mean like an unskippable video. It means things like product placement. It means matching companies to brands and being like, yeah, you know, we want to put a product placement in your game, and then Microsoft will have the network, business in place to facilitate that happening. So they've done it in Quantum Break, which had product placements in, and we've seen it in Death Stranding and stuff. And there's a clear sort of business to be. There's a business here, you know, and it sucks because, you know, no one likes product placements, but, you know, you have to look at things like Netflix, which, you know, have product placements. And if we are moving towards like Game Pass being the whole business model, upselling on that business model is going to become, you know,
yeah, but I mean,
the norm.
This isn't Game Pass. It's just free to play games. So
yeah, for now.
So you think for now? I still think, because I want to say Facebook tried this at some point with the Oculus, and people revolted. There's only so much people are going to take with ads before they just say screw it, right? And free-to-play games falls in that category where it's like, okay, maybe that's acceptable because you don't really pay anything for it, right? Although, isn't Fortnite just a gigantic ad now anyways? Right?
Well, this is just it, though. I mean, look at every single DLC for Minecraft outside the major updates. They're all tie-ins for movies, like they did the Sonic one. There's a bloody, what is it? Adidas or Puma or something?
Adidas? Adidas, you mean? We've had this discussion before. Yes, I know.
Adidas. they did. There's a Minecraft DLC that is shoes. You know, it's shoes, literally shoes. And like every single Minecraft DLC is basically some kind of ad. It's like an ad tie-in to some property and some licensing model. And I think what Microsoft's doing is they're looking at what they've done with Minecraft, and they're gonna extend that out towards other games and be like, we'll match brands with your game and we'll facilitate that through our Bing ads platform or whatever. So like maybe there'll be a future where Microsoft, brokers a deal with their ad platform to inject probably not iPhones, Samsung TVs in, I don't know, Perfect Dark. Maybe every TV in Perfect Dark is a Samsung TV. And then Microsoft will facilitate that or wherever, and then they'll get some money on top of the Game Pass stuff and on top of the retail sales and stuff like that. Companies are looking for ways to grow their revenue all the time. And frankly, I'm surprised we don't have more product placements in games already.
And
frankly,
the article even said that Xbox wasn't looking not to even take a cut from this.
Well, that's just really strange.
I mean, that's what the article said. Which, to me, just means I think Xbox realizes or knows that there's going to be a lot more free-to-play games in the future than there currently is. Now, Halo Infinite's free-to-play, right? So I'm wondering what type of advertisements would fit in with Halo Infinite. Because, okay, you can make a case for Fortnite. Maybe you can make a case for Apex Legends. But, Halo Infinite exists in the far, far future. So, if you're, okay, even if you're playing something imagine the next Forza Horizon was free-to-play. And you're cruising down in your Bugatti down the streets of Japan, where hopefully the next game is located. And you see an ad on the billboard for Mountain Dew. That kind of makes sense in that world, right? It doesn't really take you out of the game if you saw a Mountain Dew ad, as you're driving down the street, because that happens in real life. So, to me, when I'm thinking about, Halo Infinite, what sort of advertisements you could run for it, I blank, because what could you? It would be odd if you're playing a multiplayer match, and then, something pops up, and it's, Pepsi.
Dude.
But I got an idea, though.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What's your idea?
Halo needs to partner up with Manscaped because Master Cheeks needs some products.
Oh, man.
Right? No, I mean, have you not seen Master Cheeks?
Master Cheeks. Is this from the TV show?
The TV show. Master Cheeks is he's showing everything. That's a perfect... Nobody would second guess it if you're turning the corner and you're about to destroy your opponent. And the Lawnmower 1 million's available, the thing that helps smooth John's ass, because you could cross-promote it. You got that stuff on Paramount Plus, and you got John being all free and everything, showing his booty cheeks. Why not plug some Manscaped? I think that would work. What do you think? What does Chad think about that?
Well, I was literally going to ask you, does McDonald's not exist in the Halo universe? How do people get their fast food in the future? I don't know. I kind of feel like McDonald's would still exist in the future. Now, I'm not defending ads here because obviously no one likes ads, but would it be that bad? I don't know. I didn't really mind the Monster Energy drink stuff in Death Stranding, and I didn't really mind the Windows Phone in Quantum Break. But I kind of feel like once you give these companies an inch, they'll start taking a mile. And eventually we'll have I don't know, a McDonald's Master Chief armor skin or something that is literally just, McDonald's. Or there'll be a McDonald's gun that shoots burgers or something. I don't know.
No.
But
it's interesting. Because I know people don't like ads. So it's going to be, they got to walk really... Gotta walk on eggshells here because you might piss a lot of people off. So we'll have to see what comes out of that. The Glitch Doctor has been a member for 19 months, says, RIP Randall Lebowski, long live Randall Thor 19. And RDX Son of Fett says, no, is there a Halo game that's not infinite? So basically what he's asking is if there's a Halo game that 343 is working on that's not tied to Infinite, like a separate project.
That I know of.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know a lot of stuff.
No. Yeah, I don't know anything about that specifically, but we are going to talk about some new content for Halo Infinite very soon.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there is a new Halo title in development. in some form. There's like lots of people have been saying like they should bring back ODST and stuff like that. But I personally have no information about that at the moment. But I do think that if they do land this Activision deal, undoubtedly one of those Call of Duty studios will probably working on some form of Halo spin-off that has a sort of Call of Duty style gameplay. That's low hanging fruit for me. But I don't know.
Yeah. Jacqueline says, "Hey boys, CD Projekt Red is on everyone's fantasy draft, but they don't fully own their game's IP. In your opinion, will they be indie in 5 years? Which means, will they continue to be independent? Because they currently are.
I think they will be.
But I mean, like, you saw The Witcher, right? Like, I think they, outside of them delaying the next gen patch, the next gen update for PS5 and Series X, and removing it from, was it Saber's Russian development studio?
Yeah,
and taking it in house. I think they said Witcher 3 sold like 40 million copies so far in its lifetime, and Cyberpunk has sold 18 million, I believe it was.
Yeah,
which, considering, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, when Cyberpunk launched, they sold like 12 million in week 1, right?
I don't know about that.
Or didn't they have like 8 million pre-orders for that game? Something like that, and it was like 12 million they sold in like the first 2 weeks or something. I remember 12 being a number. For some reason, I have this image in my head of like 12 million being the number that they sold within the first like 2 weeks or something. Yeah. And the game's been out for over a year, year and a half. Is another 6 million that good for a game that was that hyped, or did like the sales really take a nosedive because of the problems that, I mean, it was removed from the PlayStation Store for like a long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody was going to buy them, now would be the time, because their stock price tanked. And we saw how Microsoft was very forward about hopping on Activision when their stock price tanked. So
there's a layer of complexity with CD Projekt Red, because a huge amount of the company is owned by the Polish government. At least I think it's a pretty big amount. It's a non-trivial amount is owned by the Polish government, and they've basically, I don't think the Polish government would sell without getting like a significant profit, or they'd probably prefer to just can generate dividends or whatever, because they're a major company in Poland, CD Projekt Red. So there's a layer of complexity there that I think probably is a little bit different compared to some of the studios out there. But it's hard to say. I'm by no means an expert on some of this stuff, but
yeah, I think they stay independent.
Yeah, I think they'll stay independent.
Maybe not. Maybe they don't always stay independent, but I think they do. Brett says, "Bring back Halo 3's Mountain Dew Game Fuel now." Indeed, love the Game Fuel, love it. So yeah, if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button, and let's get into some of the good stuff here. I don't know, where do I want to start off here, Jez? So I was asked this in the Xbox Era Discord. So, and he wanted me to ask you. So I'll ask you. So this one's for you, 10K. What's up with Final Fantasy VII Remake and Xbox? Are people that are holding out hope for Final Fantasy Remake to ever hit Xbox? Should they just give up that hope and just play it on PC or Xbox?
It's really hard to get information on these kind of deals, because they're subject to strict NDAs, and there's not that many people who'll be privy to them except for lawyers and stuff. And obviously lawyers are pretty good at keeping information to themselves, generally speaking. So I don't even have a hint from an Xbox source about what the hell's going on with Final Fantasy VII. I talked about it with Miles on Checkpoint this week a little bit.
Which is why he wanted to ask me, because I think you said something like "don't hold your breath" or something, which is what I've been saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally that's not based on any information. That's based on purely on my pessimism. It's kind of like if you if you expect nothing, you can't be disappointed, right? And I think like what Square Enix and basically PlayStation are giving us right now is no reason to hope that it's coming. They explicitly stated on their advertisement that it'd be exclusive for a year, and it's still not here, and it doesn't look like it's coming either. You know, there's been no announcements. There's no evidence that they're going to do a port whatsoever, and at this point, it just seems like this has been a clever exercise of seeding doubt in companies even wanting to support Xbox. If I wanted to be conspiratorial and cynical about it, these sort of like, oh yeah, it's going to be exclusive for a year, and then we're still waiting a year later or longer. It feels like you can't take any faith or stock in that, right? So it could be that Square Enix wants Microsoft to pay something extra for like content acquisition, because more than ever, companies and studios are just being like, well, if you want this content on your platform and you think it's important, you should give us like extra, something extra for it and whatever. It doesn't seem to be like, we don't seem to be in a world anymore where it's sort of like, you bring content to a platform and you get your cut and that's it, basically like how Steam runs, because Steam has a monopoly. I don't think Steam has to pay anything to get content on their platform, because they can just be like, well, you don't want to put it on Steam, we don't give a crap. But I also could be completely wrong about that. But it doesn't seem, I can't see a universe where Steam has to pay to acquire content. But Sony and Xbox do have to pay to acquire content, because they're competing with each other, and companies like Square Enix they just go between them and just be like, well, PlayStation's offering this, what will you offer? And then Microsoft will be like, well, we'll offer this, and then Square Enix will be like, yeah, well, we'll go with them then, So I don't know. Basically, I think the best course of action is to just expect nothing. I don't think Final Fantasy VII is being made for Xbox right now. Maybe Square Enix just literally thinks it won't sell, and they want to get the Game Pass money for it. But Microsoft's probably like, well, we don't think it's worth, giving you all this money to put it in Game Pass, especially given how bad it's made us look. So maybe there's some sort of weird political thing at play there, but I don't know. All we can do is speculate about this at this point. But I'm always digging, and I'm always trying to get information about this. If anyone at Xbox is listening and wants to inform us through unofficial channels, please drop in my DMs. Right there, right click away.
Okay, so I got a question for you.
Sure.
Is it a coincidence that two former PlayStation exclusives, Godfall and Bugsnax, that's right, Game of the Year 2021, according to the one and only Slow-Mo Backslap, it's finally heading its way to Xbox among, I think Steam as well as Switch. And my eyebrow raised a little bit, because I was like, that's interesting. Those were both console launch exclusives for the PS5, Godfall and Grubsnax. I mean, Grubsnax, Bugsnax or whatever. Jeez, got Jeff Grubb on the mind here. So there's a part of me that thought this was interesting, because they both, especially Godfall, they had hey, it won't be on other consoles until May 2021. And then, yeah, it did come to PS4 in August of 2021. But people assumed that it was it was going to be a year would be up and Godfall would be on the Xbox. But a year came and went and nothing happened. And now you have, both those games coming at the same time. So is it a coincidence that they just both somehow happened? Or is some of these Sony deals maybe longer than we anticipate, maybe 14 to 16 months? And the reason I bring it up, and I don't know the answer to this question, I guess we'll find out at some point, is because Microsoft's own Bethesda entered into two agreements with PlayStation, one for Deathloop and one for Ghostwire Tokyo. So when I saw that, I thought to myself, I wonder if those deals were expired at the same time. And so that's why we have Bugsnax and Godfall coming in April. But everybody assumes that Deathloop was a 1-year thing, and that when September 14th comes around, it'll be on Xbox, it'll be in Game Pass. But what if that's not the case? What if the actual deal was 14 or 16 months? So I guess I pose that question to you. Do you think Deathloop will be there day one as soon as its 1 year anniversary's up? Maybe Xbox talks about it at the summer showcase, gives a release date, says it's in Game Pass on day one. Or do you think, maybe there's some chance that the deal is longer than people thought, and we don't see Deathloop on Xbox until next year? That was just something I thought about based on how Godfall and Bugsnax both came basically the same month. I don't know. What do you think?
Miles talked about this too, and I was sort of unsure because part of me just thinks like, would they really have wanted to drop it in February in amongst Elden Ring and stuff like that? It would have been kind of pointless to have done that. But then on the other hand, maybe you're right. Maybe it is randomly 15 months or something.
Yeah, your Malice in chat says, was it announced as 1 year? He thought it was in the small text. And it was. It says it can't be on another console until at least September 14th. But I mean, Godfall had the same text that it couldn't be on another console until like May of 2021. I'm just saying, like, that's sort of like when they say, oh, at minimum it's this, but doesn't necessarily mean like it's exactly that. I don't know. Like,
Well,
I
think it's Elden Ring, personally.
You think it's Elden Ring what?
I think it's Elden Ring. Why they didn't release it in February or March or whatever? I think they were waiting for that to meet out a bit before they.
So you think they could have put Godfall on Xbox earlier, but they decided to wait maybe because the port wasn't ready? I don't know. Like I'm saying, maybe it's nothing. It's just.
Well, I'd think of it like this. Imagine if the port was ready. Do you drop that in the middle of Elden Ring? I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either. But all I was bringing up is just conjecture. It was just two games that launched on PlayStation, suddenly appearing on Xbox at the same time, and it made me just think, like, oh, well, what about Deathloop? What if that deal was longer than we all thought? Because everybody just automatically assumes that it's coming. And it's like, maybe it is. Maybe just Godfall and Bugsnax coming in April is just a coincidence. It was just something I bring up because, I really like Deathloop. I know a lot of Xbox fans. They're waiting to play it. So, I would love for it to come in September. So, there was just...
I would bet that it is a year for Deathloop.
So probably just a year for both of those. Okay.
I would guess. Could be wrong.
We also had a couple new games announced. One, I'm going to see if you care. So, Jez, during the Kingdom Hearts, I think, 20th anniversary stream, they announced Kingdom Hearts 4. Does that excite you? No.
What? Sorry, what? Sorry,
Kingdom Hearts 4. Kingdom Hearts 4. You're not excited for Kingdom Hearts 4?
Nah, I couldn't care less. I played Kingdom Hearts 1 for like 5 seconds. I was like, man, this is just not my kind of game. Is Disney and Final Fantasy together? What? It's just weird to me. I don't know. I know a lot of people like it, so I don't want to offend anyone, but it's just not my kind of game. I didn't really like how it played either. But I asked on Twitter, like, well, I didn't ask. I just tweeted. I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game, and like loads of people were just telling me, like, don't, because like the supposedly the story's really messed up and convoluted now.
Yeah,
and
I guess it is. I mean, I really liked 1 and 2 back when I was a little bit younger. I have 3, but I haven't played it. Maybe I will, because I still have, like, I remember really loving Kingdom Hearts 1, but Kingdom Hearts 4, I don't know when it'll be out, probably in 10 years, because they do take a while to make. But enough of Kingdom Hearts. The real announcement that I'm super excited for, and I know, well, I don't know about you, because I don't think I talked to you about this, Max Payne 1 and 2 Remake. Hell yes. I didn't know this was something I wanted until I saw it was announced. And I'm like, this is incredible. Max Payne 1 and 2 remade. Not like a remaster, but like an honest-to-God remake in the Northlight engine, done by Remedy in partnership with Rockstar. Yes, please. Sign me up. Nobody had this on their bingo card for like 2022. Max Payne 1. And not only that, but like, wasn't there also a... Return to Monkey Island, or Monkey Island 2 got announced recently too.
Yeah, that was weird.
Like,
I did not expect that.
Who had that on their bingo card? I personally, I'm so pumped for Max Payne. I don't care when people are like, oh, new games, new game. Max Payne 1 and 2? Are you serious? Like, if that's made in the vein of, like, what Control looks like,
It could be
or
amazing.
Alan Wake
It could
2,
be brilliant.
yes. I mean, okay, and this is why sometimes remasters suck, because, like, Alan Wake was like, yes, bring it to next gen, give us 60 frames, but they didn't do anything outside of that, right? But if, like, a complete, like, ground up remake of these games, you know, while you're at it, like, make a Max Payne 4. Continue the story. Like, why? Someone needs to remaster. I'll take a remaster of Max Payne 3. That game's incredible. But I'm so excited that they're actually... This is like the gen of remakes. You got, like, Dead Space being remade. You got Max Payne being remade. I'm sure I'm blanking on some other remakes as well. You know, Xbox should get into this remake thing. What are some Xbox games from the OG Xbox or even from the 360 Jez that you would like to see remade?
Oh, it's got to be Blinks. Blinks a cat, baby.
What about chat? Chat, let us know what is a game. It doesn't necessarily have to be from Xbox, but an older game that you would love to see completely remade from the ground up. So
Yeah,
I'm
put that on Spotify as well.
So I know Blinks, you're just joking around. What would be, honest to God? You know what? I know what it is for you. I know what it is for you. I don't even need to ask you. You want World of Warcraft remade in current graphical style.
Oh man, as much as I would like that, I just can't see it happening. Like it would be such a massive undertaking. You know, do you appreciate how big World of Warcraft is? Like how many continents and planets it has now? They'd be working on it for years before it'd be like bigger than Star Citizen. You know, the game that exists but doesn't exist, like Schrodinger's game. But like, I would love that. I think they should just do a sequel, man. Just start it over from scratch. Do a big time skip, 1,000 years into the future. Move everything forward, you know, and then restart it over. You know, World of Warcraft 2. I think they should definitely consider doing that. But will they do it under this current administration? I don't know. But as for remakes, I don't know. You kind of like caught me off guard there. A lot of the remakes that I would want.
So it's like for me, they did one already, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? So that's already done. Another one was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which they are doing, right? So that's another one for the remake bin. I really would like a complete ground up remake of Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2.
Oh god, yeah.
Can you imagine Silent Hill 2 like in today's like, excuse me?
The thing is though, I'm kind of apprehensive because it almost becomes a be careful what you wish for thing, right? So Resident Evil 2 remake was pretty much
amazing.
Perfect.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty much exactly how a remake should be made. Resident Evil 3, however, I felt it went a bit backwards a little bit. Like there was a load of stuff that I wanted to see missing, like the worm. Where was the worm in Resident Evil 3 remake? I was so salty about the fact there was no worm. But then we get to Final Fantasy VII remake, and honestly, Rand, that remake kind of broke my heart.
I know a lot of people have issues with the ending of the game or whatever.
Yeah, the end. Yeah, it broke my heart. I was like, man, this is not what I wanted. I accepted the fact that it wasn't turn-based. Loved the graphics. The new characters were quite interesting and stuff, and all that kind of stuff. But then the final hurdle, it went completely off the rails. So yeah. So when I think about games that I'd like to see remade, Silent Hill is an obvious one. But would I want today's Konami to remake that game? Hell no. Hell no. They can't even make a football game. Like that eFootball thing they made is like a train wreck of a game. So like, would I want them to make something nuanced and complex like Silent Hill? No, I would not. Unless it was like Kojima Productions with the team Hideo Kojima put together for PT. If he was going to do it, then maybe. But I think like the circumstances around some of this stuff is just, you know, kind of be careful what you kind of wish for, sort of thing.
You know what else I would love? And I'm gonna look through people's like Jade Empire remake. a Metal Gear Solid remake. Can you imagine Metal Gear Solid 1 remade?
Again, that becomes like be careful what you wish for
I
thing.
know,
If
still, I'm just saying, like, if we're going through like games that you would love to see remade, right?
well, the GameCube remake for Metal Gear Solid 1 was actually
I
really
mean, it was
good.
okay,
Like,
but it's still like, because I don't know,
I
like the
really liked it.
360. I think I'm super excited for the Dead Space remake, but it's like you can make the argument it really doesn't need one, right? Like Dead Space still holds up.
Yeah, it's
So
really funny. Like they showed off some clips of like what they've been doing with it and being transparent and stuff. It barely looks any different. Like the original still really holds
yeah,
up. So it's almost like I love Dead Space, but I can't think why are they doing this. Like it's almost like they can't think of anything else to do. I don't know. They saw that Resident Evil
you know,
2 needed a
I
remake
would
because that was a
say
PS1 game. I don't think it wouldn't have been the game I would have chose to remake from EA. Put it
Fable.
that way.
Fable is another one, but I guess maybe
Yeah.
we kind of are getting a Fable remake, maybe kind of like with the new one,
Yeah.
but still like Fable 1. So let me get this super chat. I want to see some of people's comments. RDX Son of Fett says
Oh,
early.
actually, I'll tell you what a
Okay,
remake I want.
what
I
do you
want a
want?
Warcraft 2 remake.
Warcraft 2. Okay. Didn't okay. Yeah, Warcraft 2. I actually played that one. I'd be interested in it. RDX Son of Fett says earlier this year, Jez, you said that 343 is working on not a Halo Infinite game. Was that the new Certain Affinity mode? I need clarification. So he wants clarification, Jez.
Did I say that?
I don't know.
I don't remember saying that. I might have said maybe they are, but I can't off the top of my head remember having such information. So
I do think there's
either that,
a project
I don't
that
know.
343 is working on that is Halo related that's not Infinite, but we'll have to wait and see. Mr. Forte, who I finally talked to yesterday, he called me. He doesn't call me for like a month, then he calls me up, and I was just like, "What's going on, Forte?" He goes, "Hey, hello, Rand and Jess. Hope you're having a wonderful week. Having trouble coming up with a savvy message, so this one will suffice. Have a great weekend. Thanks you for stopping by, buddy. Appreciate it." Chris R says Kingdom Hearts is a guilty pleasure. The story is so dumb, but I can't help but find it charming. And Brett says Max Payne was on my bingo card, Rand. It was on mine. So Brett had it on his. So okay, let's take a look at some people's suggestions for remakes. We got Bloodborne, which I don't think Bloodborne needs a remake. I think it just needs a 60 FPS patch. True Crime, Conquer. People want Conquer.
A lot of people
Gex,
want Conquer.
Banjo. Yeah, a lot of people do want Banjo, like Banjo 1. Star Wars Republic Commando, Fable, Prototype. Geez, a lot. Unreal Tournament, Fallout 3 remake. Yeah, Fallout 3 remake would be pretty interesting. Parasite Eve remake.
Parasite Eve. Oh, yeah. Parasite Eve remake by the team that remade Resident Evil 2.
Alpha
And
Protocol.
I know it's not a Capcom game, but it basically is. Parasite Eve is such an
Paperboy, Lost
unashamed.
Planet 1, Chronicles of Riddick. No, Chronicles of Riddick would be.
Yeah.
Dino Crisis. Yes.
Oh yeah, of course.
Dino Crisis. Where is that? Why are we having a new Dino Crisis game? Remake Dino
Because
Crisis 1.
we get in that other dinosaur game. What's it
Ooh.
called? Exto Dinosaur or something? I can't remember what it's called.
Megatron says
What's it called?
the OG Zelda. That would be interesting.
Right.
OG Zelda.
Didn't
Gunstar
they do
says,
that?
did they remake the first Zelda game? I don't know if they did. I'm not a Nintendo guy, so I could be wrong.
I thought they did that. Like it's like isometric with
Maybe.
modern graphics.
Gunstar says one versus 100. Big. Brad says Age of Mythology. Well, you might get your wish. At least
I
another
don't know about a straight remake of Age of Mythology, but you haven't seen the last of Age of Mythology. Put it that way.
Whittier says Crimson Skies. That would be interesting. Yeah, a lot of good picks here. Daswell Gordon says Metal Gear Solid 1 through 3 remakes powered by the Fox engine. Yeah, that would be.
Dino Crisis 1 and 2 would be some of my top picks. A lot of people didn't like Dino Crisis 2, but I actually really enjoyed it. It like differentiated itself from Resident Evil quite a lot.
Face says Chrono Trigger. Yeah, Chrono Trigger would definitely be one too.
Parasite Eve would be really high on my list. Parasite Eve 2 is a masterpiece.
Remake
Shadowheart,
Spider-Man, Web of Shadows, Perfect Dark, and GoldenEye. Didn't they kind of do GoldenEye remake? Sort of. I remember like
wasn't that a rumor that it was coming out this year?
I don't know.
That's a
Well,
good
no,
rumor.
like that would have been a remaster, but I'm talking about like a brand new
I
like
don't know.
GoldenEye because I remember I could have sworn I played it on the 360 maybe or something. Drawn TJ says, "Hi Rand and Jez, please be 1 versus 100." I think people really would love that. Paper Mario 64, Steel Battalion, Gunstar says. The first Saints Row. Hey, we're getting that with Saints Row, the new one, right? Anyways, that's a good discussion on remakes. There's a lot of them coming out, and I'm really excited for the Max Payne 1 and 2. So
I honestly think if Max Payne 1 and 2 does well, they'll let Remedy do Max Payne 4, probably.
I hope so. I hope so. Jez, let's talk about these improved, brand new Xbox Series X and S chips. Did you hear about this? You know what I'm talking about, at least.
Yeah, Brad Sam.
The one and only Brad Sam. So tell the people, what can we expect? You know, because Brad knows what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Brad works for Stardock now, who make games like Galactic Civilization, but he still randomly does journalism.
He's still got those Xbox Microsoft contacts, you know?
Yeah, he's still rocking it. I actually spoke to Brad about this because I wanted to make sure that he wasn't being misquoted or something like that. Because sometimes people, you know, he says things like maybe, and then it gets misquoted. But no, he did tell me that he has heard that, you know. And he also said that it's obvious because they were always working on chip revisions, but he did say that they are specifically working on a revision of the Series S and X chips that would be more energy efficient, and which to me obviously points to a mid-gen refresh, which is
you think we're going to see an Xbox Series XX and an Xbox Series at like S squared?
Yeah, I don't think they'll be.
Because hold on. Before you answer this question, you were on record on this podcast saying there won't be mid-gen refreshes.
Well, I didn't. That wasn't a leak. That was my expectation. I was never told there wouldn't be a mid-gen refresh.
You're like me, where you will change your opinions about something based on new information. Where you're not a stickler for like this is what I think. When new information is presented, you change your opinion. So now you're of the opinion that there's going to be a mid-gen refresh.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
There's evidence of it now. Like,
but I mean, is it evidence of a mid-gen refresh or just evidence of maybe a slim version of both consoles? They always do those, and you figure, you know. Go. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead, answer the question. Keep on going.
Well, I think Brad himself said that they weren't going to have new specs. They just sort of like maybe more energy efficient, maybe easy to manufacture and stuff like that. Because obviously Microsoft's very committed to, you know, their climate change goals and stuff like that. So obviously reducing the energy use of the consoles while hitting the same levels of power and stuff, that, you know, is something they want to do. But they also want to make chips that are easy to manufacture potentially and stuff like that. Because obviously this chip shortage stuff is not going away anytime soon. So, you know, without having like more information handy and without having like, you know, sources on this, because I don't, this is all Brad Sam's information from Brad Sam's YouTube channel, which you should definitely subscribe to because it's a good channel. And, you know, Brad has a lot of great information. It does seem to me like we get like some kind of like Xbox Series X Slim, Series S Slim, you know, that can like, doesn't draw as much power. So, you know, doesn't build up as much heat. And as such, you can get a smaller console because, you know, the Series X is one of the biggest consoles ever made. The only console that's bigger is PlayStation 5, as far as I'm aware. There hasn't been a bigger console than PlayStation 5, right? By volume. That's a big, chunky boy. There's like, you can get gaming PCs that are smaller than the PS5 now. So, I do foresee a future where there's like a smaller PS5 too as well, and a smaller Series X and smaller Series S. But I don't think they'll be more powerful. I don't think it'll be like with the Xbox One X situation where they were like, yeah, we need to do a power. We need more power, you know. But I could be wrong. Maybe there'll be more power too. But Yeah, I think we'll see Series S Slim and Series X Slim. Maybe not next year. Maybe 2024. If I had to guess,
Series S is already super small. Can you imagine a slim
I think
version of
it
that?
gets smaller. Dude, do you remember how small the PS2 got?
I mean, yes, I do remember how small. Like
I
this
got,
news,
I got pockets that the PS2 could fit in. The last version.
this news isn't really super surprising because I figured at some point there'll be a slim of both consoles, especially the Series X. I'm also of the opinion like, well, I don't know, like should what the way the PS5 does it, where they have a digital version and then like, the regular version. Like, do you think if you could revise the console, make it slimmer, do you also then like remove the disk drive but still keep the disk drive in one of them, so you have like, because it definitely seems like digital is this, more and more people are maybe opting for that, and I just wonder if like more people be interested in the Series X. I guess like removing the disk drive of the Series X wouldn't really like save that much money, so maybe not. But
I'm just like increasingly wondering if the play's adding a disk drive
to the Series
because
S,
like for the Series S, yeah, because I think a lot of parents will be like, we can't buy secondhand games on this,
Yeah, but
and
does anybody buy
presents an
secondhand
issue.
games anymore?
Dude, yes. I think so.
Physical
Parents.
look, I know there's a lot of
Parents do.
people out there that like love their physical stuff, but it is a dwindling, shrinking market. And most kids these days, I would imagine, are probably just playing their Fortnites. The Fortnites is a digital game. There's no physical disc for Fortnites.
Yeah, but it's free. But I guess I guess kids don't even play games anymore. They just play Fortnite. Or they don't even play games that you have to buy. I mean, it's all just Fortnite now. It's all just mobile games, basically. So, yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong on that, but
I don't know. Like, so I always thought like slim versions would happen. I was kind of 50-50 on the idea of a mid-gen refresh. With the stock shortage and the chip shortage kind of being a thing, it would, I don't know, the fact that people are just now able to get a Series X because they put a lot of stock into the channels the past couple months. I don't think it would be the best look for either company to say, hey, 2023, we got mid-gen refresh coming out for these consoles. Because people at that point be like, I just got this freaking console, right? So I think maybe the timetable for a mid-gen refresh probably gets pushed back a little bit, 2024, which would be 4 years at that point. What was Series X? Series X was 4 years, right? Yeah, Series X was 4 years, and the PS4 Pro was 3 years.
The One X.
Oh yeah, the One X, whatever.
Yeah.
These such confusing names that Microsoft did, right? We even forget about them sometimes.
Yeah.
So
it's a pain when you're writing about them. I've had to write articles that are like, is the Xbox One X more powerful than the Xbox Series S? And like comparing these consoles, you have to like remember which one you're talking about.
I think it's like, it'd be funny if Microsoft puts out a next gen refresh next year, and it's like, we got a new console, guys. But like they haven't been releasing any of their games. Like we got another console, like because Xbox Game Studios have kind of, there hasn't been a lot of content the last couple years, which is all supposed to kind of change. Like it would be kind of awkward for them to release another console before their studios start putting out content, but I know like timetables for hardware and software aren't exactly lined up or the same or whatever, but I could definitely see people making fun of that for it. Either way. Drawn says in the super chat, Command & Conquer 3 Kane's Wrath remake would be nice. And Nightwolf says, Rand, how about a complete remake of X-Men Legends 1 and 2 if Activision deal goes through? Yes, please. Great show so far, guys. Yeah, a lot of people have... Oh, yeah. Onyx says the original Splinter Cell multiplayer, so like... That would be... What is the Splinter Cell multiplayer mode? That's that's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't... Chat, help me out here, because I cannot...
The name?
I cannot remember the name of the mode in Splinter Cell that was amazing. I'm literally blanking right now. I don't remember it. Am I getting old?
Yeah, you get
This stuff used to come to me like super quickly. And what is this? What is this? What is the name? Jez, please help me out. Splinter Cell. It was
Dude,
in
I don't
Pandora
play those kind of games.
tomorrow. I'm
What do you
I'm
mean?
waiting for someone in chat to tell me the name of the mode. Oh,
Spy versus
Spies
Mercs.
versus Mercs. How could I forget
Banner.
that? I feel
How can you
horrible.
forget
I'm
that?
40 years old and I'm sitting there blanking. I can see the game mode in my mind's eye because I played it so much, and I was looking at the chat because I was like, I am blanking on this. I don't know. I don't know what it was called. Yeah, I would love that. Soul Reaver is another one. I'm not sure anybody mentioned. People would love a Soul Reaver remake, and Prince of Persia. I would love a Prince of Persia remake. I love Prince of Persia. I do. I think we're getting like a remaster-ish remake. Is it a? I don't know. Remember when they showed off the new Prince of Persia, and people were like, "That's it," and then they kind of delayed it again. Would you consider that a remake of the first game or a remaster of the first game?
I think it's moving towards remake territory, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're doing this much stuff to it, but man, like all this talk about remake, I just keep thinking about the remake that was taken from me, Rand.
Dylan says you made me put down Elden Ring for something so simple, Rand. He had to type it in chat. He couldn't believe I forgot Spies versus Mercs. I think it's time for me to just go off into the sunset. That's it.
Well, poor Rand.
Prince of Persia is a remake. Well, it's an awful looking remake then.
Rip.
So, I think we need to talk. So we talked about the new Xbox chips. Both me and Jez believe, obviously, there's Slim's versions coming and potentially next mid-gen refreshes. Can't wait for a 16 teraflop Xbox Series XXX. That's going to be great. 16 teraflops of power.
That's a lot of flops.
That is a lot of flops. Let's talk about Oddworld, because you didn't hear about this.
Oddworld?
Yeah, and this comes from our friend, good buddy of mine, Insipid Ghost, over at the Xbox Expansion Pass podcast. So if you guys don't know who Insipid Ghost is or know his podcast, make sure you go over there, his YouTube channel, or whether or not on Spotify or everywhere else. He's a solo show. You've been on his show, right? I've been on his show.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude. He had Lauren Lanning on to talk about Oddworld. And the big headline from his podcast, because they're talking about Oddworld, and he mentioned the PlayStation Plus deal or whatever, was that it was devastating. And that's basically the article that everybody, or the word, because it was mentioned, that everybody used in their articles. But everybody also has a different take on it. Some people say, oh, this is further proof that subscriptions suck and that they're the death of gaming. Look, it was devastating, right? But it definitely it seems a little bit more nuanced than that. So what was your initial read about all this stuff, Jez, about what went on with Lauren Lanning, Oddworld, and PlayStation Plus being devastating for the company?
Well, my first impression was, wow, that's not a good look.
Well, because you didn't know anything about it.
No, I didn't. I completely missed the story. I missed a lot of stories this week, frankly, Rand. I've been taking it easy this week. I'll be completely honest. I've done my deadlines, and then I barely looked at any news or emails or nothing. Which is why I've got high energy this week, because I have taken it easy. I really did need to take it easy this week, but I don't know. Anyway, Lauren Lanning. My first impression from the headline was, this is not a good look. But my second read was, well, this doesn't seem like it was a smart business decision on the part of Oddworld, frankly, because it had no provision for royalties by the sounds of it. Like if there'd been like royalties based on engagement and downloads, then it would have been a good deal. And I say that because I know that Game Pass, when they do these deals for Game Pass, and I realize this isn't like, I realize this is PlayStation Plus, so it's a bit different. But for Game Pass, when they do these deals, they do have a royalty clause for engagement baked in, at least for some of the games, you know. So in the event that a game is downloaded a crap ton, that they get rewarded for that, and I think that's the right way to do it, you know. But for whatever reason, they decided not to get a royalty clause in for this game. And as you know, he says, it was downloaded millions and millions of times, and as a result, he potentially missed out on a lot of revenue from it. But at the same time, you have to wonder, would the game have gotten that kind of engagement if it had been in Game Pass? Because if it is like if we're comparing it to like Games with Gold, because this is what this was ultimately, it was like PlayStation version of Games with Gold. You get a bit of a spotlight, you know, when you are the Games with Gold game. There's a spotlight attached to it potentially, or at least in more, maybe not Games with Gold these days, as Games with Gold's become sort of a bit of a pariah. But the PlayStation equivalent, like, he's generally been of a, you know, a higher caliber, at least more recently. So, and also it was at launch, right? So they had a big spotlight on the game. Would the game have done 4 million downloads if it hadn't been in PlayStation Plus? Obviously not. Would it have got as much interest if it had to compete in Game Pass? Probably not. You know, it's not a multiplayer game. If I'm remembering right, I don't think Soulstorm has multiplayer. But you know, and I've played Soulstorm, and I did play Abe's Exodus back in the day, and I, you know, big fan of that game. But I didn't get too far into it. And it didn't poke me in the nostalgias because they changed so much of it. Like the first areas are nothing like Abe's Exodus was. So I was like, oh, this is a completely different game. It's not like Abe's Exodus. Obviously Abe's Exodus being the sequel to Abe's Odyssey, which they did remake, new and tasty, which was a more of a, you know, direct remake. This almost felt like a completely different game. So I don't know. I dropped off very quickly with Soulstorm for whatever reason, but I don't know. I think it sucks for them because obviously they're an indie dev, and, you know, Oddworld's a great IP, and you don't want to see a, you know, dev being screwed for whatever reason. But it just seems like this, whatever reason, they should have had a royalty baked into this sort of, you know, this deal, and for whatever reason they didn't. Maybe Sony doesn't offer that as part of their clause or whatever, but I know they get that with Game Pass, so I don't think this could be or should be used as a criticism of Game Pass or subscription services, because, you know, generally speaking, in Game Pass, so there's royalties attached to it.
Well,
so
it seemed like, you know, so basically, for those that don't know, like, he put it on PlayStation Plus in April, and it was downloaded 4 million times, but I think they thought it would only be downloaded a couple 100,000 times, because originally it was supposed to launch in January in PlayStation Plus, but it got delayed to April. So then basically there was like double the amount of PS5s available. And they probably structured the deal where they're like, okay, pay us for 100,000 copies or whatever, which it also looks like they needed that money to finish the game. So they took the deal because they needed the extra money to finish the game. Then the game got delayed because of it, and there were suddenly more PlayStations available. And then because of that, more people downloaded it than they thought. And the deal that they originally cut wasn't good enough to cover everybody downloading it. And because everybody downloaded it, also, you know, you're going to have less people wanting to purchase it because, you know, why would you when you download it for free through PlayStation Plus? And then maybe that even impacts certain things, like when it came to Xbox, because it came out on Xbox, and I'm not really sure anybody really played it on Xbox, because also it sounds like the game's not very good to begin with anyways. It didn't review very well, so
it felt good to play.
But then the thing is, it's like, so you have this about the how it was devastating for Oddworld, but then you have the opposite. Then you have like, you have Eidos Montreal talking about how Guardians of the Galaxy is finally finding its audience now, thanks to Xbox Game Pass. And they seem to be very happy with, you know, whatever deal they got, and the devs are super happy that more and more people are playing the game because, you know, it's really good, and Game Pass is, you know, more people are playing it. So like, and then you even factor in like the Scarlet Nexus tweet, where they thanked people on Xbox and Game Pass for playing Scarlet Nexus to the tune of 2 million, right? So it's kind of just odd when you got like these two kind of stories where you have two companies thanking Game Pass, right? Guardians of the Galaxy finally finding its audience now. Thank you, Game Pass. Scarlet Nexus devs tweeting, thank you, Xbox Game Pass players, you know, which is, they didn't thank PlayStation players, which maybe is an oversight because I don't know if you looked at that tweet, Jez, but there were some salty boys on that tweet.
Really?
Oh, yes, there were. There were some salty PlayStation fans on that tweet. They did not like that.
Dear.
How dare you thank Xbox fans? They didn't buy your game. PlayStation Nation bought your game and you didn't even mention us. I'm not buying your next game. Screw you. You know, typical responses like that. Funny.
Wow.
But it definitely shows, I don't know, like the extremes. Two companies talking really well about Game Pass and how they're excited for, you know, their games to be reached by millions, and then PlayStation Plus was devastating. You know, it's definitely a thing. But I love to see it. I love to see great games get played by more people.
Yeah.
But then I guess that also goes to the
Damn
whole
royalties, man. Damn royalties.
The Xbox and JRPG situation. Because Miles wrote an article about this for Windows Central. I mean, you know, we mentioned Final Fantasy VII Remake earlier. I think me and Jez both believe that it's never coming to Xbox. And for the most part, most JRPGs do miss Xbox. They don't put their games out on there because there's the common belief that Xbox gamers, they don't play JRPGs, right? And, you know, they use the sales to justify that. But then, like, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because, like, you bring your JRPGs later to Xbox and then they don't sell, and then you decide not to, and it kind of just reaffirms your confirmation bias, right? That these type of games don't sell. But Miles is all about JRPGs. And unfortunately, I got to talk about this tomorrow on his stupid show. It's not a stupid show. Xbox Chatter Days is amazing. You know, and JRPGs aren't really like my thing I like to talk about. But I mean, how do you feel that Xbox is handling it? Like, are they doing better? I mean, we are seeing more JRPGs hit the system. You know, there's still question marks surrounding Persona and Final Fantasy and stuff like that. But do you think Xbox is doing enough to get the JRPGs to hit the system to make, you know, Xbox more viable in, you know, Asian countries and stuff? Like, how do you feel they're doing? If you had to grade them.
My concern is that we're in a chicken and egg scenario where it's like, you know, to get the audience, you need the games, but to get the games, you need the audience. And it kind of reminds me of the app situation on Windows Phone where, you know, to get the apps, you needed people who own Windows Phone. And to get apps, to get Windows Phones out there, you needed apps that people wanted to use, like Snapchat. Like, the fact that Windows Phone didn't have Snapchat was credited as a reason why the whole platform failed. Like, there was no Snapchat and there was no Pokemon Go the years those platforms blew up. And they would be talking about Windows Phone not having TikTok probably and shit like that. But I digress. It wouldn't, if it doesn't have the people who like playing those games in any sort of abundance, then devs aren't going to bring their games to the platform. So how does Microsoft solve that? They're going to have to pay up. They're going to have to pay for the content acquisition, which is what we were talking about earlier. Basically, they're going to have to literally just pay devs up front to have those games and, you know, just be like, well, we'll offset your risk by actually just paying you to bring the games to the platform. Now, but it even goes beyond that. They need to have like the business relationships in place. They need to have like an actual, you know, presence in Japan and sales reps pushing the consoles. Now, the situation isn't dire because as we've seen, the PlayStation, the Xbox is actually doing okay-ish in Japan for an Xbox system. It's doing way better than the Xbox One did, and Game Pass and also the Xbox Series S is probably a huge factor in that. You know, the fact that like they can buy it as a companion console and they can get loads of games relatively cheaply, and there are games which have a big appeal in Japan. Like I've heard Flight Simulator is pretty big in Japan, for example, for an Xbox game, that is. And so all hope is not lost, but I think Microsoft needs to. But we haven't seen huge amount of traction. That's the concern, is that we haven't started seeing like an avalanche of games coming. We've got like Yakuza, which is great. We have seen games like Scarlet Nexus come to the platform, which is also great. But we haven't seen like some of those big name games like your Persona, Final Fantasy skipping the platform as well is painful. And I remember when they announced that Final Fantasy 13 would be coming to Xbox, and it was like a big deal because Final Fantasy was always seen as like basically a de facto PlayStation exclusive, right?
Even though it was first started off as a Nintendo franchise, but yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, a lot of people associate it, and we, like all those Nvidia leaks are turning out to be true. Does that mean Final Fantasy 9 remakes turning out to be real? Is that going to be exclusive as well? Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive, and
yeah, that was the other thing from the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement was people took a second look at the Nvidia leak and they're like, "Oh my god, this means Final Fantasy 9 remake is exclusive, or it exists, right?" Yeah. Matthew North has a question for you, Jez. He says, "You got any info on Windows randomly celebrating Persona 5's birthday today on Twitter? Did you see that?"
Oh yeah, I think that's just a social media person who likes Persona. I don't think that means anything.
You think that's a social media person that forgot to log off of the corporate account?
Nah, they're just being reliable. That's how you do social media. He's like, you be reliable. And like,
be relatable, be like, "Hey, how many times have you played Persona 5 Royale? Not on Windows and not on Xbox."
Yeah, I don't know. But it was just a reply to someone.
But there's talks and rumors that Persona is going to get announced for Xbox at their summer showcase.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, all I heard like was that they were working on it. That was like years ago. But Phil himself said that, so it's not even really a leak. I don't have any information beyond that. I want to believe, Rand, but it's hard. It's hard, buddy, because as I say, we couldn't even get Final Fantasy 7 remake, which is just it just feels kind of weird.
I think Final Fantasy remake is coming up on its 2-year anniversary now, right? I think it launched in April. Crazy. So yeah, I think Xbox still needs to do a little bit better when it comes to the JRPG stuff. I think they're doing better than they like for the Xbox One gen. I think Game Pass helps out a lot. But Miles wants those, he wants Legends of Mana and stuff like that. And it's just like, it was a good sign that Chrono Cross came to Xbox. Because when I had heard that thing existed, I was like, I ain't coming to Xbox. But it did. So, maybe it's going to be a little bit, if they can somehow get Persona to come to the platform, even if like the next Persona is a PlayStation exclusive, I think that'll go a long way. I mean, they got all the Yakuza games. It's kind of like some of these franchises that weren't come to Xbox are. So, I think as Xbox grows and gets more larger in Japan and Game Pass grows, the idea of like not releasing your game on Xbox, especially for that, maybe it's just you second guess it a little bit. Like, maybe we should, because Xbox, you look at the last couple months, it's selling pretty well, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let me get a couple of these super chats. Psycho762 in super chat says, "Finally catch the show live. With the expected size of Starfield and the 11/11 release, do you think it will get the same treatment as Horizon 5 and get overlooked for the Game Awards?"
Maybe. There's always that recency bias kind of thing going down, but I don't know. The Game Awards is all about trailers, Do the awards really matter?
Well, I think the biggest thing going against Forza Horizon 5 was the fact that it's a racing game. Right? But also, I guess it really depends on when Starfield review codes go out. If Starfield review for a game is supposedly as big as Starfield, I don't think they can give reviewers a 1 week lead time. That's not enough. So if you can give reviewers 3 weeks to play that game, maybe even a month. Like what did we have? Halo Infinite a month before it came out for review, right? And you loved it so much, you beat it on the second day, even though you talk about how you give it a 5 out of 10
lagging.
now.
Or is that me? One of us is lagging.
Is one of us lagging?
Are you lagging, or is that me?
I mean, I hear you perfectly fine. You must be lagging because I can hear you.
Maybe I'm lagging. Oh, I'm lagging. I'm lagging on my end. I can see like yellow bars and shit. Oh man. Typical internet problems. But yeah, I don't know. Jeff Keighley said that typically oftentimes people on the council they'll get builds of the game that aren't even review builds. That back in the day, in the olden days, before the days of review builds, they'd literally just make, well, I suppose it's still a review build, but they literally just give you like a copy of the game as it was like in development. It'd be a PC build, sure, but it felt like less formal than what we have now, where it's like basically a finished version of the game. And it's like the version of the game they feel is most marketable, I guess. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Well,
I think Starfield will end up in the running for it, but it's hard to say.
First off, it's gotta be a great game, right? Everybody's assuming it's going to be great. So to be nominated, it's going to have to be great. I expect big things from Starfield. I think Xbox knows what they have. I've never seen them promote a game this far out so much, even with no gameplay. They're doing these like little chats with Todd Howard, so I think they know what they have. The release date, might pose a problem for the Game Awards, but it really depends on when journalists get their hands on the game. So if they can get the game a month beforehand, it'll be fine. But it's gonna be tough to knock out Elden Ring. But maybe it's just nice to get nominated. So, when I'm thinking of Game of the Year, like my list, it's like, all right, I think right now Elden Ring's number one, and it's probably going to win, right? Because the same people that vote on the Game Awards are the same people that reviewed it, and it's got a 97, or 96 now. So I think it's a shoo-in to win. I think Horizon Forbidden West will be nominated as well. I think God of War Ragnarok, if it comes out this year, will be nominated. So it's like you got 3 shoo-ins there. So it's like, what else is coming out that would deserve to be nominated? I love Sifu, and Sifu did get decent reviews, but I don't know if enough to be nominated for Game of the Year. Breath of the Wild 2's got delayed, so that's not taking up a spot. So yeah, I think there's a good chance Starfield could get nominated if it's really good.
I think Starfield will get nominated.
Yeah. But the reason Forza didn't get nominated was because it was a racing game. Let's just be honest. It didn't get nominated because it was a racing game. Truckle Chuckle says, great show, guys. Jez, will Xbox invest more into films in the TV app? I wish I could access it on more devices. And Rand, how's Scalebound looking? There we go. Scalebound mentioned. This is an Xbox 2 podcast every week. It's got to be a Scalebound mention.
You just rename us to the Scalebound podcast, maybe.
Yeah. Should Xbox invest more into films and TV?
I want them to, because I hate the fact that I have thousands of stuff that I've bought on my Xbox 360 and my Xbox One and my Xbox Series S and X over the years that I can't use on my phone. Like, it's annoying, and Microsoft just doesn't want to pay for those licenses. I think like they have to pay for an extra license or something if they're gonna put it on phones and stuff. Like, even I know that they can't sell that stuff on phones, so that's probably like the reason why, because they'd have to give Apple and Google a cut, which is why you could get it on Windows Phone but you couldn't get it on Android and iOS. But the same time, I should at least be able to view my content on my phone, Microsoft. I don't know. But will they invest more? I don't think so. I think if they were going to do it, they would have done it already. They're just doing the bare minimum, basically. Like they still get all the latest movies, and they get the more 4K versions than they used to and stuff like that. But I don't think they're going to invest more in the film and TV app. I think it's basically static, and they don't really care about it, which sucks. I honestly wish they'd just if they can't be bothered to develop it, just sell the business to Google or Amazon or Apple and let someone who will develop it take over, because they ain't doing a great job of it right now. But I don't think they'll develop that shit.
Installation 7 says, if Japanese game companies treat an entire player base like second-rate customers, don't be surprised when people feel slighted by being put last.
It's true. Yeah. That's true.
Thanero says Xbox needs exclusive JRPGs. Eternal Sonata sold beyond the 360 back then because it was only one Xbox at the time. I mean, I doubt Xbox will get exclusive JRPGs, and I know people really look back fondly at the 360 when they had exclusive Blue Dragon and exclusive Lost Odyssey and Eternal Sonata, and I think there was even some other ones that I don't remember the names of off the top of my Last Remnant I think was exclusive for a while.
Yeah, I remember.
But I think that whole experiment it didn't go very well. So, and I know I would love to see a Lost Odyssey too. I love Lost Odyssey, and people really liked Eternal Sonata, but maybe Xbox feels that that's not the time to make exclusive JRPGs right now, because they would have to build up the audience in Japan. But then it's you're not going to build up the audience in Japan unless you got exclusive content. So it's kind of like you mentioned, chicken and the egg, right?
Chicken and the egg, baby.
Chicken and the egg is the problem.
I do wonder though. The performance of the Halo Infinite, the performance of the Halo TV show, even beyond films and TV, it does make me wonder if they'll invest more in it, because Paramount's been kind of vocal in saying that Halo Infinite. Why do I keep calling it Infinite? I'm getting old too. The Halo TV show, they seem to suggest that it's been doing pretty well for them, or at least okay. I haven't seen people ranting and raving about it like I did in The Mandalorian. When The Mandalorian came out, that killed the internet. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." No one's really done that for the Halo TV show. No one's sort of. Do you know what I mean? No one's really seems to be that hyped about it. But I do feel
because I see people hyped for Master Cheeks though.
Master Cheeks, yeah, Master Cheeks. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe they just need to make it R-rated and just ramp up.
If you got an ass if you got an ass like Master Cheeks, then Manscaped's got you covered, baby. Code XB2 in the checkout, 20% off, and you could be nice and smooth.
Man, but
I love the fact that his name is Master Cheeks in the show, and people are just running with that is hilarious to me.
Master Cheeks. I want to believe that they'll invest more in TV shows and stuff, because it does feel like transmedia properties are becoming more and more important. And even though I think this metaverse stuff is complete bollocks, all the sort of the major companies seem to think there is something about this metaverse stuff. If your game isn't everywhere, it kind of hurts your game now. The stuff that Riot's doing with Arcane and League of Legends is just way ahead of the competition, and I just think they're gonna keep pushing it. They're gonna keep doing more and more stuff in that direction. I can't believe how many seasons the Castlevania TV show has gotten, and they've barely done anything with the games.
That is true.
Is Castlevania just Castlevania is now a TV show more than a game?
Well,
it's so random.
Is it another thing that Xbox was kind of ahead of the curve on? Because they started Xbox Games TV studio. What was it? Xbox? I forget the name of it. It was TV. They shut it down, but what was the name of it? It was it wasn't Xbox Game Studios. It was something, and they were going to do
Xbox Entertainment Studios.
Yes, Xbox Entertainment Studios, and they did the Quantum Break TV episodes, which whatever. But there was this whole push of games being TV, and that fell by the wayside, and they shut that down. And then here we are, a generation later, and like you mentioned, this sort of stuff seems to be coming big. Like PlayStation they got the Last of Us TV show. They got a Ghost of Tsushima movie, I think. There's a God of War TV show that's being fought over by Amazon and a couple others.
Microsoft
like
was
Uncharted,
right.
like it was just like Xbox. They kind of saw the future, but they tripped over their own feet, and now like when it's actually starting to be a thing, they're behind the eight ball again, right? Because they pulled out too early. Like, where's the Gears TV show, right? Where's there is a Fallout TV show coming, which Xbox, since they own Bethesda, but like. It seems like now it's more accepted, like, of the multimedia approach. And it's just like Xbox was going to do that in 2013, but it just didn't work out, I guess.
Man, it's funny. I actually have the sort of the schematic for Microsoft's pitch to their board.
You showed it to me, yeah.
Yeah. They're literally like, they were so ahead of the curve, and they knew where all this stuff was going. But they were way too early. They were just way too early with it. But they knew this was all going. Like they were talking about Netflix and Blockbuster and how everything was going to be streaming. And this was back in 2011, 2012. They knew all this stuff beforehand, and they just didn't stick to their guns. People rejected it because they were confused by it, and Microsoft couldn't sell it to people because it was so damn early. But, and they talked about it more than they executed. If they'd just done it and didn't sort of announce it with all this kind of fanfare where, like, people were just like, oh, man, they're taking away money from games and stuff with this Xbox Studios thing, and just disrupted the whole thing. If they just executed on it instead of talking about it, then I think it would have worked out much better. But much like, Facebook's doing with the metaverse stuff, They've set the wrong tone already. Like, I don't know if you saw Facebook's metaverse pitch video. It was the cringiest damn thing I'd ever seen in my life, and now I just want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with the metaverse because of how cringe they made it seem. They just started doing it and started like made a viral app like VR chat or something that everyone just started talking about. Like TikTok didn't have an advertising campaign. It just appeared out of nowhere. They just executed, But companies who talk rather than execute I don't know, it just comes off as a little bit desperate. But I don't know.
You remember as much as I hate Kinect, and I think you did that article about how Kinect was amazing. Even Microsoft was ahead of the curve about people having cameras and audio recordings in your house. Because look at like the personal assistant market. People it's not a big thing to have an Amazon Echo or Google Assistant. Is that what it's called?
Google Home.
The Google and people are just perfectly fine with gigantic corporations listening in to every single conversation you have. But when Microsoft was like, "No, we're going to do it too," people were like, "Hell no!" It just a lot of things, like the idea of physical disc being like digital, were interesting, but it was just too much at once. They had a lot of future looking ideas that because other companies were staying put, which I don't know if you saw, Jack Trenton was on a podcast talking about how his company wants to acquire, I think some company for $2 billion in the gaming sector, but he talked about that sharing video and he said like they didn't do it to like hurt Xbox, and I'm just like, really, Jack? Really? He's like, he basically said like he knows he has friends at Microsoft and then and now, and they didn't do it to hurt Xbox. I'm like, that's one of the greatest marketing things ever. Like, because you basically killed Xbox in a 1-minute video or 20-second video, and it just shows the ruthlessness of place. Like, you saw an opening that you could exploit, and you exploited it, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. I think it's funny. He was just like, "Yeah, we didn't go out there expecting to hurt Microsoft." It's like, yeah, whatever, sure, okay, sure. But either way, Elchanis returns in the super chat, says, "Fake media created issue. Aside from Persona and Final Fantasy, every AAA Japanese game is on Xbox. Trek to Yomi is launching in Game Pass. Give me a break." I mean, yeah, Tales of Rise launched on Xbox. Scarlet Nexus. But usually the AAA games do because they kind of need to be everywhere. I think
You have to remember though, like AAA games have different KPIs than indie games. Like a AAA game, they might be happy with engagement, and maybe they've got upsell on, you know, other stuff, and maybe they've got like a multi-year plan, and they're like, yeah, you know, maybe if this game doesn't do that well, it's okay because we've got this next game coming up, which, you know, will market this game, you know, and sort that sort of thing. But indie games, they live game to game. So they have completely different performance indicators and different priorities about how they want to, you know, ultimately sell. They live game to game. A lot of the smaller studios do. So when they're thinking about should we bring this game to X platform, it's because like they're thinking about whether it will actually a worthwhile investment for them. Like whereas other companies like Bandai Namco, they can think further out. They can think like Scarlet Nexus will sell this amount of copies and it'll market the next game. There's obviously going to be a Scarlet Nexus 2, and obviously it builds a Halo effect over Bandai Namco brand because like Scarlet Nexus seems like a pretty good anime game, you know. So it's like I couldn't get into it myself. It was a little bit too anime for me, but which is weird because I really like anime. But this game was like, wow, this is really anime. This game, but I don't know. I
think Miles' article was more to do about like smaller indie titles like the Legends of Mana and stuff. And I still think it's a big deal for Final Fantasy not to be on Xbox. I think that does hurt the brand. Because Final Fantasy is pretty damn big, and for
That's
Remake,
what I think it's Sony's doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Remake is not here yet, and probably never will be. For Spoken is a 2-year deal, at least according to at least 2 years. Same thing with like I think Final Fantasy 16. Like, it's not. I personally think it's not a good thing when big franchises just stop appearing on your platform. You know,
I can see Forspoken coming to Xbox because that seems more like a Western game to me.
Yeah, but 2 years is a long time. Like 2 years at that point, like 1 year, like because a lot of gamers have FOMO, the fear of missing out, and
that's true.
It's like when a game finally comes to a platform a year later, like most people are just like, don't give it the time of day because it's like if you cared about it, you would have played it, you know.
Yeah.
Which is why it's interesting about Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo because I saw nobody talking about Ghostwire Tokyo when it came to PlayStation. Maybe it launched too closely to Elden Ring, although it was like a month. It was a month later, so
it's just not a very good game.
Well, I mean, it reviewed okay. Same thing with Deathloop. It's like I'm not Deathloop, even though it got like Game of the Year nominations. I didn't really see a lot of people talking about it when it came out because there's this kind of weird thing where like Xbox fans were like, I'm not going to play it because I'm going to wait for it to come to Xbox in a year. And PlayStation fans were like, well, this is an Xbox game from an Xbox studio, and I'll probably never get to play the sequel, so I'm not going to support it. So it's kind of like stuck in limbo. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, I guess.
When games like Kenna or like something like Sifu come to Xbox, like, will people still care? Maybe they won't. But I know like my interest in a game is definitely less than if I have to wait a long period of time. But then normally I buy my stuff like day one anyways. So, yeah. Brett says yes, they should invest more in TV. Warner Brothers Games, Bandai Namco, even Paramount would be great. And little thing about WB Games, which was always kind of like people talk about as acquisitions. And that was always the one I wanted. The Discovery merger went through, and it definitely seems to me, from the way they talk about the gaming and the IP and stuff, is that the time for them to sell is over. I don't think Discovery is going to be selling their gaming division. So I think the idea of Xbox getting NetherRealm or Rocksteady, I think Xbox and other companies had their shot. And it's gone. Like I don't think Discovery is going to sell. I think they're going to see how because you got like Gotham Knights coming out and Suicide Squad and the next Mortal Kombat game and Wonder Woman. I think they're probably going to see how all that stuff goes alongside like maybe their new direction with DC because they want to be better. They want to copy the Marvel formula. It just doesn't kind of seem like they're going to be interested in selling the gaming division. So I think you can probably remove that one from the board.
Yeah.
But Xbox did try to get them. And you know what the problem was? We would probably have WB Games as part of Xbox Game Studios right now if it wasn't for what, Jez? What was the thing that held up the deal?
IP ownership. Warner Brothers
Licensing,
IP, licenses.
If the
All of Warner
licensings
Brothers
weren't an
license-
issue,
Yeah.
they'd own them. Somebody would own them. I'm not saying necessarily Xbox would, but Take-Two would, EA would, Sony would. They would have been bought when AT&T was looking to sell, but not anymore. Hargeet Chaney, what's going on? He says, Jez, you can get movies anywhere to link to your Xbox account with other accounts like Google, Apple, Vudu, etc. Your library is available on any platform. There you go, Jez. See?
If you're American.
Oh, yes. Well, that's, why wouldn't you want to be American? Got the best of everything, right?
Ooh, I can give you a huge list of reasons why I wouldn't want to be American. But like that movies anywhere thing, it only works if you're in America. Like when I was in America, Rand, I actually did it. When I was in America, for E3, I linked my account to Movies Anywhere because I was like, I've foiled the system.
Uh-huh.
But even with a VPN, when I'm not in America, it doesn't work. Like they've got some super VPN circumventing magic stuff going on there. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and Europe just doesn't have anything like that, sadly. So
yeah, unfortunately. East Texas Alex says, let's all have a moment of silence for Rand's beard. Gone, but never forgotten. Hit that like button, everyone. Yes, thank you, Alex. And hit that like button, everybody, in remembrance of my beard. Shed a tear. Hargeet also says, Tales of Arise Global. I think Hargeet is giving away a Tales of Arise game code in the super chat.
Oh, wow.
So if anybody, I'm sure it's probably already been redeemed by now, but thank you, Hargeet, for sharing the love and talking about JRPGs. I know Tales of Arise was widely liked, was reviewed very well. You played it, right, Jez?
Yeah, Tales of Arise is all right. I just got these sort of like, this is too anime for me kind of vibes. And also I wasn't a big fan of the combat system. It felt like I had no control over what was going on. Like I could do my own combos, and then like switching to other characters felt really messy to me. It felt like Dragon Age but bad. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the combat system, but I also didn't give it that much of a chance. I think I did like 3 bosses or something, 3 of the main bosses, and then I just like dropped off. But I appreciate it for what it was, I guess.
Right. DB Cooper says, Business Insider just posted an article claiming Microsoft was going to put ads in games. Is there any truth to this? We already talked about it. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to it. It's supposed to be free-to-play games. But we'll see if any of the feedback, because gamers, one thing they are is they're very passionate, and they'll be upfront and tell you what they like and they don't like. So
yes, they will.
We'll see how all the ad stuff is implemented in the free-to-play situation. Keyshawn Thompson has been a member for 5 months. Thank you. He says, hey guys, that's it. Just hey guys. We appreciate you being here. And Hargeet, who's been a member for 5 months as well. Thank you. He says, I think the one would have sold better if it was more powerful than the PS4. Lower power at a higher price made it an uphill battle. 2.5 to 3 teraflops different story.
Definitely true.
Yeah, well, get rid of the Kinect, that POS, and it would have been a different story. More powerful Xbox, cheaper Xbox, same price as a PlayStation. You maybe have a different battle, all because of that fucking stupid-ass Kinect.
I just bought loot boxes.
Yeah, Humdrum says, Jez, or you think other rare IP will return this gen? So like
Nope.
Perfect Dark. You don't even think Banjo's gonna come back, bro? What?
Oh, okay, yeah, Banjo probably, but I always think like Conquer and stuff like that. I don't think you see Conquer or stuff like that, but Banjo is the only one that I would expect to see return.
Metal Morbo says, any comments on the Embracer Group buying spree? I mean, Embracer Group's going to do what Embracer Group does. They kind of like stay low and they just kind of pick up all the little small pieces. You know, my buddy's studio, Beamdog, was purchased by Aspire, who are part of Embracer Group. So I have a buddy who's a part of Embracer Group now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They revealed their game on G4 TV, Myth Force. Have you seen Myth Force, Jez?
I have not, and I have not received any press release about such game.
Well, it's early access on PC, so
right.
I think it will come to console later. But it's like a Saturday, it's like a 4-player co-op Saturday morning 80s cartoon style, like you know, I guess you maybe describe it as like the Warhammer games, kind of.
Yeah.
You know. It's got a pretty interesting art style if you ever want to take a look at the trailer for it. JD Gamer says, think of consoles as countries and the games as ammunition, with AAA games being nuclear bombs. So the question is, who will be dropping the most bombs?
Well, that's an interesting metaphor.
It is. Isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the current climate. I have no idea. I think like on the sheer volume of studios, and especially, God, if Microsoft does land Activision Blizzard, they're gonna have a blizzard of exclusive AAA games like non-stop, you know. And Blizzard's working on all kinds of games, like mobile games, service games, non-service games. Like it's just a crazy volume of stuff. And then you've got Bethesda. You know, a lot of Bethesda studios don't make service games, and they aren't going to be making service games. And you know, we've got all those AAA games to look forward to. You know, we've got some servicey kind of games like Redfall, probably potentially sort of a soft service, sort of like Borderlands. But you know, have to expect that Arcane's going to do more Dishonored. They're going to probably do more Prey. I would hope. God, I would hope. Man, there's just tons of stuff. And also all the publishing deals they've got with people like IO Interactive and Avalanche. That it's really funny. We've been talking about IO Interactive now for like what, a year?
Well, ever since you revealed Project Dragon.
And it's still not official. Maybe it's been cancelled. Oh God, that would be bad. But no, I don't think it has. God, I wonder if they'll reveal Project Dragon this year. Like, are we going to be waiting?
No. Well, I mean, I suppose they could. They could reveal it with the CGI trailer. I suppose
that'd be like the longest lead time on a leak.
Yeah, which is why I told you not to. Here's the thing. So Jez will tell me a lot of stuff, and he told me about the project. He told me about Project Dragon and IO Interactive because Jez knows how much I love IO Interactive, right? And he's like, they're making an Xbox game. And I was like, are you freaking serious? And he was like, yeah. And he would tell me about it. And I was just like, that's cool because I love IO. And I'm like, well, what's the timetable on this game? Is it coming soon? And you started laughing. It was like, no. I'm like, well, when's it supposed to come? And you were like, I don't know, 2025 or something. And I'm like, and you're going to leak this now? It's 2021. Like, what are we doing? See, if any Microsoft people are listening or people from I'm the good angel on Jez's shoulder, okay? Like, I'm the one who's always like, Jez, yeah. I don't know if you should be leaking this. Like, maybe you should hold on to it. Like,
the reason I leaked that was because IO themselves bloody leaked it. They posted a job listing on their website, which was I don't know if it was accessible. I don't know if it was meant to be accessible, but it was publicly accessible. It wasn't like linked anywhere, but like people data mined it. And then it was like, well, if random people are data mining this job listing, which describes Project Dragon, then it's going to leak at some point. So it might as well be me, right? Might as well be me keeping my job for
I suppose.
a few more weeks. So IO Interactive themselves leaked that shit. So you can't blame me for that one. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of games coming. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, and he also says
more than Sony though. I don't know. Sony's doing on its own acquisition spree right now. It's acquisition season. To quote our friend Special Nick, acquisition season.
Is it like forever acquisition season? Because
anyway, it's acquisition season is just permanent now. It's permanent acquisition life we're in now.
Well, I'm still waiting on them buying From Software because wasn't that was supposed to happen 3 weeks ago at this point? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, what happened with that?
I don't know. What happened with
And
that? You tell
Kojima as
me.
well. I don't know. Kojima as well.
Yeah, the Kojima stuff, which was. I mean, I guess he had to come out and say something. I think he definitely trolled people on it though. So
Yeah, it's funny.
PlayStation updated their banner, and it included a picture of Death Stranding. And people, as they do when it comes to acquisitions, the speculation begins. People look back like, well, could this have been, Greg was talking about when you guys said there's an acquisition? You know, they're really tight, and Kojima just moved studios and all this sort of thing. And Kojima posted a picture of the banner, and everybody's like, it's confirmed. Kojima is acquired. Kojima Productions is part of PlayStation. And then people were like, see, that freaking Grub is wrong. There was no Xbox exclusive game. Because people still put that on Grub, right? Because Grub's the only one who's come out there and talked about that Kojima Xbox game, right? You've never mentioned it because you said you have no proof.
I have nothing about that.
Nobody's talked about that besides Grub. And even though Grub's got like a million stuff right, people always hold on to the stuff that hasn't come true or have changed. Like, people still hold, even like me and you, as well as Grub, people will be like, you said Xbox Live Gold would be gone and it's still here, right? Like, so everything you say is wrong because you were wrong about this, right? I hate how people do that, but people do that, right? So he posted the thing and people are like, Kojima on PlayStation. There are people making videos about it just off of a banner being changed, even though the more likeliest explanation is that like Death Stranding is coming to PlayStation Plus when the new thing happens, when that new like service gets implemented, and PlayStation owns the IP, and it's a pretty big game. But no, everybody's doing the mental gymnastics that this has to mean acquisition. And then people use like, well, you remember when they posted about the Blue Point thing, and then that didn't happen for a while, whatever. So people were celebrating, and then Kojima was like, sorry for the misunderstanding, but Kojima Productions is and will continue to be an independent studio. So
Yep.
that still means the Xbox game is on, which Jeff Grubb said recently in his Grubb Snacks show that he heard as of a couple weeks ago that it's still on. And yeah, Jeff, you need to find out about this stuff. You can't have Jeff be the only one to know about this game. We need you on this.
Okay, I'll get right on that.
You should.
So, I should, yeah.
So yeah, the Hideo Kojima trolling people. JD Gamer also says, I think that after 2023, with the number of studios Xbox has, that they will be delivering AAA games at a pace that other companies can't compete with.
I agree.
That is definitely a big possibility. I mean, you got all these studios making games, so when you add Activision, you got Blizzard in the mix, and Jez is extremely excited for the things he's seen of Blizzard games. Future games. You got all the Activision studios, so.
And another big reason I'm excited is because Mike's running it.
Yeah,
and
Mr. Ibarra.
Mike is a hardcore WoW player.
Yeah.
So, and I think like to run a studio like Blizzard, you have to be immersed in what they're doing, and Mike is. And I don't think Kotick has picked up a game controller in his life, but Mike Ibarra obviously is a hardcore gamer, and as such, I would hope that Mike realizes that talents like Nether Portal for Demonology Warlocks desperately need a buff. For example, hint, hint.
For example, is that who you play as?
Yes, I play a Demonology Warlock, and I have for over a decade at this point. And yeah, I think they need more buffs, even though they're probably one of the best classes right now.
Hereditary Bane says, if Activision Blizzard falls through, where does Microsoft go from there?
They buy loads of other studios, so maybe they look less ambitious than a big publicly traded company, and maybe they look a little bit more manageable. Stuff like Bethesda, maybe. Not that there are many studios out there left like Bethesda. Certain Affinity is obvious. I think they grab IO Interactive. I think they grab. I think purchasing Avalanche is probably incumbent on how well Contraband does, but I think IO Interactive will be obvious one. They'd probably try and negotiate with Square Enix to get Crystal Dynamics, which is your whole thing. They'd probably lock down the Tomb Raider and Hitman IP. Maybe they talk to Konami and be like, maybe they just buy some IP. Maybe they're like, can we do something with Silent Hill? Can we do something with, Metal Gear? God, can you imagine if Microsoft bought the Metal Gear IP?
Yeah,
but I think if they're saving 70 billion from not buying Activision, there's tons of stuff.
I think it depends on how okay. His question is if it falls through. How does it fall through? Right? Like,
don't say that, Rand.
I know. I'm just saying. He says if it falls through, but I guess you have to determine what do you mean, because if the government blocks it, Microsoft owes Activision $3 billion, which is a lot of money. And I think if that's the case, I think somebody loses their job at Xbox. And I think that makes Microsoft less determined to go for big expenditures in the gaming space, because if they're blocking Activision Blizzard, who's to say they also, you go and buy Square Enix, for example, and the government doesn't block that, right? So I think it would make Microsoft gun shy. But then what happens if Activision shareholders don't approve the merger, which I think they're supposed to vote on at the end of this month? Activision then owns Microsoft money. So maybe they then determine the best course of like, okay, well, if we can't get this, who's next on our list? So I guess it depends on how it falls through,
Maybe Microsoft buys Steam.
Yeah, and that would get Microsoft buying Steam would get, like, if they bought Valve, that would get blocked. In this current climate, that would totally get blocked. It would.
Oh man, they just need to bribe the right politicians, man. That's how it works in America, right?
Maybe
that's how it works in the West in general. You bribe the right politicians,
Yeah. I want to talk about Master Cheeks a little bit here, because we have some Halo information, right? We got season 2 being announced. Called Lone Wolves, coming out on May 3rd, with 2 new maps, 1 new arena map and 1 new big team battle map, and a bunch of fixes and stuff. They announced today that the tank glitch that people can use, which I don't know if you saw this, Jez, like there's that like tank gun on top of like a down ship, and like the 3rd level you can like grab. It's like invisible, but you basically have a tank gun in your hands that you could go through the whole game with, get achievements, beat the game on Legendary, do lasso. They said today that they'll be patching that. So if you want to get those things out of the way, do it now. And then a couple days ago, Certain Affinity tweeted out that we've been a part of the Halo franchise for more than 15 years, and we're honored to say we are deepening their relationship with 343, and have been entrusted with further evolving Halo Infinite in some new and exciting ways. Now, I think you mentioned before that you had heard about Projekt Tatanka or whatever. So bring us home on this topic, Jez, because you were going to say something last week, and then we delayed the podcast. Couldn't do it. So what's up? Is Certain Affinity making the long-rumored, Rand-needed Halo Infinite Battle Royale? Please tell me yes.
It would appear so. It would appear so that, like, basically, I have information that suggests that it's Battle Royale. That it's some form of Battle Royale. I don't know if it's going to be, like, specifically a clone of PUBG and stuff like that. But this is a huge mode. This mode has been in development for over 2 years. But Certain Affinity, and it's a big deal. It's like a huge investment, and they've been working on it for a really long time. So this isn't just like a sort of, a few game modes here and there. This is a big Warzone, like Call of Duty Warzone scale undertaking. It's basically like a separate game. The goal of this mode is to bring in new players to the Halo franchise, right? That is the goal. Is to, you know, people who aren't familiar with Halo, you know, they've got the classic, they've got Arena, and they've got, you know, the big team battle for people who are really into the classic Halo style gameplay. But this is gunning for the Fortnite audience, the Warzone audience. This is going to go a bit broader. And I have received information that it is some form of battle royale. It's going to have a shrinking arena, like in typical battle royale fashion. I don't know if it's going to be a team-based sort of thing, like Apex Legends, or if it's going to be more of a solo thing. Like, I suppose Fortnite was like that initially, wasn't it? And then they added like duos and shit like that later. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with battle royale stuff because I play real games like Overwatch.
Oh, here we go, huh?
So,
Real games.
yeah, it does seem like it's battle royale in some form. I don't have exact details on how it plays, but it is targeting that audience, which suggests to me it's battle royale. And also, someone pretty much told me it was battle royale. But
so, is this going to be an article? Are people watching this who are going to be writing articles on websites? Because Jez Corden confirms that Certain Affinity is making a brand new mode that's basically a second game, and it's battle royale.
It's going to be huge, and I believe it's targeting season 3. I could be wrong on that.
Season 3 would be
probably the end of this year.
August? No, because if they keep to the 3-month cadence, May is the beginning of season 2. So June, July, August. So, well, you know, that would make sense because let's assume the Xbox Game Showcase is in June. What better way to like show like here's what's coming for Halo for the end of the year, and you show off a battle royale mode that then is launching in August, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, development's fickle. Maybe it doesn't necessarily launch then, but at least that's what you've heard. So
yeah, I mean, it could be delayed, but I believe it's like it's either going to be season 3 or season 4, and probably will be revealed at their gameplay showcase. Like the fact that they're coming out with it now, and Certain Affinity is basically making their presence known to Xbox fans on Twitter and stuff like that. That's obviously ahead of reveal of this game mode, and obviously some assholes leaked it as well. Called Jez. So Projekt Tatanka, it's known internally as, and it is going to be a sort of a big deal game mode, huge update for Halo, and a mode that hasn't really been in Halo before, so probably battle royale themed, to appeal to that audience specifically. No idea exactly how it plays. Don't know if it's going to be more like Apex, or if it's going to be more like Fortnite, or if it's going to be more like Warzone. I suspect they'll have some unique twists on it, some unique twists and turns to make it, you know, give it its own identity. I don't think they'll just directly copy PUBG or directly copy Fortnite, but they are gunning for that audience. So that is the future of Halo for that stuff. Obviously, they're going to be doing more game modes, and they're still going to be supporting the classic gameplay, of course. They're going to still be doing that. And that's why they brought in Certain Affinity to do this extra mode, because obviously they're going to still be working on the core experience that Halo fans know and love. So don't think this is something like they're going to go all in and just ignore the rest of the game, because that's not going to happen. Because obviously 343 is working on that, and they're hiring and they're ramping up to support the live service better with more maps, and people have been crying out for extra maps. And I think they actually showed off a couple of new maps recently, right?
Yeah, they got 2 new maps coming for season 2.
Yeah, 2 new maps coming, and they're gonna have more than that. Oh, and another thing as well. This Tatanka mode, wherever it is, also ties into Forge mode. So God knows what that's gonna look like. Are people going to be able to make their own Forge maps for the battle royale stuff? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's the unique take, is that people can make their own maps for it. Because I don't think any of the battle royales do that right now. But user-generated content is going to be a core part of the experience, supposedly. I know Fortnite has something like that, doesn't it? I think, off the top of my head.
I think they have creative mode, but I think you still play on the
I
map.
don't. Yeah, I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's gonna have user generated content and that kind of stuff, and obviously all of your unlocks from the base Halo game will also work into Tanker as well. If you didn't think it would, if it'd have separate tracks or whatever, I'm sure there'll be rewards unique to that mode, but anything you've unlocked will also work in the new game mode as well. So yeah,
I guess the questions I have is just how big of a battle royale we're talking here. Are we talking home players? Are we talking like what's the map look like? Because like Apex does I think 60 players. So I'm wondering because people have speculated that Tatanka is the mode is named after the wrestler who won like the Royal Rumble, in whatever year, and that Royal Rumble was 30 people. So like, are we talking a 30-person battle royale? Which at that point I think it's too small. So I guess it just comes down to player count and size, right? And like, are we doing different degrees of like, because one of the things that other games do is they have like loadouts and like different guns with different attachments and stuff like that, where like Halo really doesn't have that. Well, I guess they do in Fiesta mode. So yeah, like I think Halo needs BR. I said that from the beginning. I know a lot of people are very mixed on BR. There's some people like screw battle royale, right? Like, but as of right now, today, it's like the biggest game mode in the world. So not if you're a shooter and you don't have it, it's like not having deathmatch back in the day.
Yeah, it
so
really is.
It's something that you need to have, especially in the PC space. So I always kind of knew they weren't going to have it for launch, but I figured they would have it later because you got a 10-year journey for this game. So at some point, I figured they'd make it. I'm kind of surprised it's coming this soon, to be honest with you, because I really didn't expect it till next year. I didn't expect it to be in Season 3 because, like...
Well, I could be wrong about that Season 3 thing. Like, when I said Season 3, I was thinking Season 3 would be later in the year.
Well, I mean, so even still, like let's even say, like, it's Season 4 and it coincides with, like, the year anniversary of the launch of the game or whatever, right?
Right.
I was always thinking it would launch in year 2, which maybe that would be year 2 of 1 year anniversary. Well, actually, no, that's not year 2. But yeah, it needs it because not having it, I think Halo. The problem with Halo is it appeals to a certain group of people, and you're not really expanding. It's like at this point, if you like Halo or not. If you like the type of gameplay it has, and with battle royales dominating everything, and those games getting the new audience, it was a mistake. Well, I wouldn't say it's a mistake, but if you want to get new people into your franchise, you need to have the mode that is the biggest.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you need battle royale, whenever it does launch, it's got to be good. Right, so I'm assuming that it's going to be good, but
it's that will be good.
Well, it's got to be great.
It's got to be bad.
It's got to be really good. But like when it does drop, those player count numbers on PC will, climb all the way back up, and there'll be every streamer and out there, from Dr. Disrespect to Shroud to whoever else will be streaming it, because there aren't that many new battle royales, and they were all streaming Halo when it came out, and then like the content died, so people went back to Warzone and Fortnite. But once that battle royale hits, people will be checking out Halo again. So that'll be its rebirth, and at that point, you need to keep up with the content. Like I know people are down on Halo right now because of the lack of content and stuff, and it's been a while between seasons, but that can't go on forever. So I'm excited. I know my friend group will be super excited because we love battle royales. How does the chat feel? Is everyone still listening? Are you excited for Halo's take on battle royale? Let us know, because I am. So Brett in Super Chat says, I doubt anyone at Xbox would lose their job if the deal goes through. Unless someone is trying to shift the blame. Satya was the one who pulled the trigger. Phil just put Kotick or Bobby in touch with him. It's potential, yeah. I mean, I just think like that's a lot of money. Somebody's gonna fall on their sword for that. I can't imagine it being Satya or Phil, but maybe it's just some random nameless lawyer who has to lose their job. And thank you, Hargeet, for giving away a copy of Tiny Tina's in the super chat as well.
Oh wow! Yeah, thanks for that, man. That's awesome.
So thank you. We really appreciate it. And Face says, I'm kind of happy that the power narrative went away and it's more about the games. I mean, it's always about the games. Yeah. It's always been about the games. You know, the power narrative is interesting because, well, no, the power narrative isn't that interesting because I think we're at that point now where, like, it just doesn't matter. Like, I know people will say, well, it mattered during the PS4 and Xbox One gen when games were 900p to 1080p. But a lot of the games now are like 4K and Xbox are like 1900p on PlayStation, and I couldn't tell the difference.
I think Nintendo killed the power narrative with the Nintendo
Switch. Yeah. I think what's also become more of a thing is frame rate. People talk about frame rate a lot more now because like the resolutions are normally either the same or slightly better on Xbox's side sometimes, so people focus on frame rate, which is great because I want 60 frames in everything. But even still, like, frame rate doesn't matter that much to me anymore because I got VRR, so it's like the frame rate's smoothed out by the TV, so it's not like it was during the 360 or Xbox One gen where you play a bad port of a game. It's like most of that stuff is gone. And it's back around to basically the games. Who's got the great games? Who's got the better services? You know, and that's the way it always should be. And that's kind of the power narrative. I think it was just this weird situation last gen where PlayStation was cheaper and more powerful. So it was kind of like a double whammy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and I don't know if Xbox is the most powerful now, but have they done enough to really differentiate themselves from PlayStation in that regard? I don't think so. Has any games that have come out on Xbox used RDNA 2 yet? I don't think so. Has anybody used mesh shaders? Has a game on Xbox even used velocity architecture?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Will games do that in 2 years from now? Maybe.
Well, I don't know. PC, they announced direct storage for PC literally this month, or was it last month? Like, or when it's coming at least. I think they announced it a while ago, but they announced like more details about it around GDC time. So, yeah, I think a lot of it will come around when the APIs line up with PC, maybe. But yeah.
Also, Xbox is doing pretty damn well sales-wise across Europe and North America. They had some big drops in Amazon and different places where the Series X was available for a bit. And then the numbers came out for March, I believe, and Xbox was, I want to say in second, maybe first. Their sales were up quite a bit. So, and we talked about this before, but our buddy Special Nick over at Xbox Era said that he was told that Microsoft was essentially paying for priority chip manufacturing from AMD. And I think that was something me and you had talked about, and I think maybe even you had alluded to it. So do you have any more information regarding that?
I haven't got any hard information about that specifically. I mean, I believe it though, because I always thought Microsoft was in a better position to negotiate for chips than maybe PlayStation is, purely because of their PC business, and because Microsoft's been like inexplicably put out a bunch of AMD Surfaces. Now it's kind of like why would you use AMD in a Surface? Like they're not particularly great laptop chips. Like, I know there's this whole like war between Intel, Nvidia, and AMD when it comes to PCs and stuff, and there's loads of people who are like AMD's the best and stuff. Like, there's chip fanboyism. I don't know if you're aware of this, Rand, but there is chip fanboyism. It is a thing.
You mean like Nvidia versus AMD?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just like how there's fanboys of PlayStation versus Xbox versus Nintendo, and shoe fanboys apparently between Adidas and Nike and whatnot.
Yeah, there's everyone has fanboys now. It's like, yeah, you have to be tribal about everything. That's just the way life is now, apparently. Well, actually, that's the way life's been for thousands of years, more accurately, probably. But yeah, like I thought it was really strange when Microsoft started putting out AMD based services. And I'm not suggesting that Microsoft was like, if you give us priority on, the chips for the consoles, we'll start putting your chips into Surface. Like I don't think that is what's gone on here. But I think it does give Microsoft like leverage maybe to have like a better relationship with AMD than potentially some of the other companies out there, because they are doing this stuff and they are pushing AMD into laptops and stuff. So PC business is still really massive. I remember back in the day, everyone was predicting that mobile phones would kill PC sales, and like PC sales did decline for a few years, and then COVID happened, and then it's like, oh shit, I need a new laptop. So suddenly everyone's buying laptops again, and obviously the PC business has grown very, very, very nicely over the last year or so. But yeah, I believe what Nick says. I haven't got evidence about it myself to suggest that this has definitely happened or whatever, but it makes sense to me that Microsoft is in a position to negotiate for chips maybe better than Sony is and better than even Nintendo is potentially. But could be wrong, but that's my gut feeling about it.
Yeah, well, it's good because more people should get the consoles, and
Yes.
I wonder how long that's going to go for us for the rest of the year, because there's analysts out there saying that PlayStation was going to outsell Xbox 2-1 this year, but for the first 3 months of the year, that's definitely not the case. PlayStation seemed to not ship very many, so I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll see how that stuff goes for the rest of the rest of this year. And I saw this interesting stat from YouGov, Jez, where it said they polled their audience. 46% of U.S. PlayStation and Nintendo players would consider Xbox Game Pass if it added Activision titles.
Yeah, it's Call of Duty basically.
Yeah,
That's like Activision titles, but really it's Call of Duty. Let's be real. I think that's pretty interesting personally, but
yeah.
But hopefully that's where we'll be. That's where we'll be in a couple of years. Is Call of Duty launching straight into Game Pass? But it's interesting to think about, because Call of Duty's business model historically always been about the retail sales. That's the reason it's annual, is because it makes so much damn money at retail, and I have to wonder, like, would Microsoft be willing to disrupt that straight away? Because you have to remember they did put Minecraft into Game Pass now, but they didn't for the longest time. Do you remember this?
Don't remember what?
That Minecraft wasn't. I was wondering, like, will they put Call of Duty into Game Pass straight away? Because they didn't put Minecraft into Game Pass straight away.
Yeah.
It's there now, but they didn't put it in there for ages, I think. If I'm remembering correctly. Because of the business model. So like, it's Call of Duty's business model so much entrenched in retail that they're nervous about disrupting that by putting it into Game Pass.
Well, maybe that's why they keep it multi-platform, so like it's still sold on PlayStation, and then they talked about bringing it to Switch or Nintendo platforms, right? And you still have it on PC, and even if it is day one in Game Pass, you still have everywhere else you could sell it, right? So it'd be like MLB The Show launches day one in Game Pass, but not on PlayStation though, right?
That's true.
So I wonder the analytics they can grab from that. Achievement in Super Chat says, just wanted to remind y'all that you guys are awesome and thank you for the great content. Thank you for the Super Chat. And guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. We'd appreciate that. And subscribe if you're new. I've lost like 200 subscribers since I haven't done any content in 2 months, which is, not a surprise. People want new videos. So, yeah. And, I said before I'd be on camera. 100,000 subscribers and Rand's on camera, so we only need 13,000 more, and this podcast will be on camera. Unless I decide to do it earlier than that, but we'll see. JD Gamer goes, imagine Xbox not selling PlayStation for the next 9 months because of chip priority. How does that change the console landscape now into the future ecosystem? I think that would drastically change it. If somehow they were able to do it for the next 9 months and Xbox either sold as much as the PlayStation or more, you're talking about a shift in balance and power. Because I think the common assertion was that PlayStation was going to comfortably outsell Xbox by a 2-to-1 margin. And if somehow that changed, I think there'd be drastic consequences from that. Wouldn't you agree, Jez?
Yeah, I think there'd be. I agree with you. There'd have to be some kind of consequences, but
either way,
there's so many moving parts to consider, and so many things we don't know about.
Yeah. But I think that's a good spot to end the show. If you guys have any more questions, make sure you put it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer any questions you guys have. Thank you so much for being here on Friday. If you want to see a Rand before and after pick, how it started, how it began, make sure you head over my Twitter and check it out. As I completely shaved off my beard and cut off all my hair. So I'm like, Samson, I've lost my power. Or did I gain my power? I don't know. So it's awesome doing the show with you, Jez. I missed doing it last week. I was already raring to go. And, I guess what's left to say other than manscaped.com, 20% off, code XB2. So you don't have to look like Master Cheeks. XB2. Atticus says, was never a fan of Battle Royales, but a Halo Battle Royale I could definitely get into. Imagine dropping down in pods. And like you dropping down in ODST pods or whatever.
It makes total sense.
I would love that. Token Aussie says, Rand, how many showcases this year? Will Bethesda do a standalone show for Redfall and Starfield? Well, I mean, I feel pretty confident that Xbox has a show in June. I think Grubb has said that, and it always made a lot of sense to me. There is a lot of people talking about the potential of another show at the end of the year. I think makes sense. You do like an XO or something. Even there's some people floating around the idea of what if Xbox has their own show in June and then Bethesda does their own show in September. And I'm not necessarily a fan of that right now. I know QuakeCon is all digital this year, but I still think from a marketing perspective, I still think you need to educate consumers that Bethesda is a part of Xbox. And I think having a Bethesda Xbox showcase is still probably the best way to go about that. Plus, if you had a Bethesda showcase in September, that's not enough time to talk about Starfield or Redfall. You got to talk about Starfield and Redfall now, not like 2 months before they come out. You know what I mean? No, I'm not saying you can't do a strictly Starfield only stream in September, like how PlayStation does State of Plays. Please do that. Have a big 30-minute stream where you go over everything about Starfield. I think the game needs that. And I think Redfall needs that. But I still think you need to see more about the games this summer with a gameplay trailer for both. Even if, Todd's only out there for 10 minutes talking about Starfield. I think that's what it needs. And then you can have a more in-depth stuff later on in the year for both those games. And hell, even for Forza Motorsport if it comes out. I mean, did you feel the same way, Jez?
Sorry, I zoned out a bit there because I was getting message spammed from someone at work.
Oh. Do you like the idea? I guess the question is, do you like the idea of Bethesda having their own show later in the year?
I've been told that Bethesda's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to marketing Xbox this year. So I feel like there is a world where they could do both, and they've done it before. They've done the Bethesda showcase and then the QuakeCon thing, 1-2 punch kind of stuff. QuakeCon's kind of like this historical event now, and there's a cachet attached to it, like a brand and stuff. So yeah, I think they could do both personally, but will they ultimately? I don't know.
Brad wants to know, Jez, do you think Microsoft could make a AAA non-RTX Age of Empires campaign that goes through historical events or time periods with a similar format to Assassin's Creed or Rise: Son of Rome?
Like a third-person action game that uses the Age of Empires branding and sort of, I don't know, historical accuracy. That's interesting, because like typically Assassin's Creed has had the monopoly on that, but they've always had this sort of supernatural element to the games. Rise, Son of Rome was almost like that, but even that game had like supernatural stuff to it. I suppose the question is ultimately is like, would there be an audience or something that was like super grounded in realism, And I don't know. That's interesting. That's an interesting thing to think about. But I do know that they do want to expand the Age of Empires brand. They do want to expand it and what it's known for and what it does. Like the Age of Empires mobile game that launched in China and is coming to the West, I've heard, is doing really well. Like it's made by Tencent, and Tencent obviously knows how to make a mobile game. And is it number Tencent? Yeah, like Tencent Timmy Studios or whatever. They know how to make a mobile game, and by the sounds of it, they've made a really good game out of Age of Empires. So they do want to grow the brand, and I've also heard that they are working on a sort of Age of Empires kind of spin-off kind of game that is sort of like, it's sort of like if Age of Empires is Forza Motorsport, this Age of Empires game is more like Forza Horizon, where it's more accessible. It's more sort of, maybe casual is not the right word to use, but it's sort of like it doesn't have the sort of cognitive overload that a full blown RTS can have for a new player. Like this new Age of Empires game that I've heard about is sort of like a spin off, and that it's going to be maybe more MOBA-ish, maybe. I'm not sure, but they are definitely exploring what they can do with the Age of Empires franchise. So maybe a third-person action game like Rise, Son of Rome, but maybe you play as like, I don't know, barbarians or Vikings or something like that. Maybe even like, in ancient Britain, or maybe even further afield, like go down east. Or there's loads of stuff they could do with that franchise. So I want to believe they'll do something like that.
Right. What else we got here? Colt Eastwood's in the chat. What's going on, buddy? He says I'm stronger now because I cut my hair, and that his audience hated the idea of a third-person Halo in Battle Royale. So, because he made a video about it. Ulfric says, could you imagine if Bethesda was to ever do a Lord of the Rings RPG? I mean, I would like that. I love Lord of the Rings. GKN says, do you know if it's possible for Xbox to get the Berserk IP for an external Japanese partnership? And also,
oh god, that'd be amazing.
And also, does Microsoft own the Shadowrun IP? I believe they do, but isn't there some licensing issues with the Shadowrun IP or something?
This is actually did Jeff leak this, or did we just talk about it privately? I can't remember.
You better be careful about what you say then.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to keep I need to keep notes. I think Jeff told me this when we were discussing things, or did he say it publicly? I'll just say it. This might be a Jeff Grubb thing, so credit it to him. Actually, should I say this? I don't know. Fuck it. I had information on a code name, another code name, and I think it was either me. I can't remember. Basically, Shadowrun was implied that it was potentially something they were exploring bringing back. I can't remember if Jeff told me this or if someone else told me this. Or if he said it publicly. Maybe someone in chat knows, but I honestly can't remember. Oh, okay. So Pong Soul said in chat that Jeff's already talked about it. Okay, good. So yeah, I had a code name, and I actually can't remember the code name off the top of my head. I'll actually dig it up for another time. But I had a code name, and Jeff told me that that code name was potentially Shadowrun. Now it's interesting because Shadowrun is one of the FASA. Is that how you say their name?
Yeah, fast. Yeah.
It's one of the FASA IPs, and obviously the FASA IPs are a bit of a mess because Microsoft owns Shadowrun and they own the rights to make games based on the MechWarrior franchise. But problematically, though the legalese in those contracts are so old, they don't cover a lot of modern games and a lot of modern systems. And from what I understand, the holding company that owns the FASA stuff now, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, it's some toy company. They've shown themselves to be hostile and willing to sue people over their IP, even though they basically don't do anything with it. So even though like the MechWarrior, the BattleTech IPs are basically effectively sort of like being barely utilized. Like we've got MechWarrior 5, which is okay. It's not great. It's a decent game. And we've also had BattleTech, which was pretty decent for the first hour until you realize that's basically the whole game. So we have BattleTech and we also have MechWarrior 5, which are okay. But beyond that, Microsoft's done nothing really with them. And that's because they're not sure that they'll get sued for putting more behind those franchises, which is why they license them out to other studios to basically build indie games because they're not sure that they can go further with it. Now, but this code name that Jeff was talking about, this was for an internal project. And if it is the Shadowrun stuff, maybe they've either solved it, maybe Shadowrun has better legalese in the contract than MechWarrior did, or I don't know. All I know is that all I'd heard is that it was complicated, and ultimately, I don't know if this project, this rumored project, which is Jeff Grubb's original info, I only had the code name. Jeff was the one who told me that, or told me that it was the Shadowrun thing. Don't know if it's actually Vonnegut. Oh yeah, Relic said okay, Vonnegut. That was it. Yeah, code name Vonnegut.
People know your code names better than you know your code names.
Yeah, they really do. I couldn't remember it for shit. Codename Vonnegut. That was Shadowrun, and or it had been linked to Shadowrun at least. Don't know anything else about that. In fact, can I find out about that right now? Hang on, take another question while
Okay.
have a look.
Yeah, about the Berserk IP, I have no idea about the Berserk IP, but Widia says,
you read Berserk?
No, I've not read Berserk.
It's good.
But I hear a lot of the Dark Souls games are kind of based around Berserk in a way.
Yeah, like every game has a sort of claymore in it, which is Guts' sword, or it's like inspired by. They're all very sort of berserky. Like you can see the clear influence and stuff. Yeah, Berserk's like the darkest fantasy story ever. Shit happens in Berserk that like I'm just like, how could anyone put this onto paper? so depressing and grim, but yeah, it's also kind of why it's awesome. But,
yeah. Bear says, Rand Jez, we know Stalker 2 is delayed because of the war in Europe. Is there any news about Atomic Heart because they have a Russian developer? Is it still on track and coming? I mean, they haven't said anything, so I'm assuming it's still on track, and they do have some time to play with.
If Atomic Heart's made by a Russian dev, doesn't that basically end the game due to sanctions?
Maybe it does. I don't know.
Yeah,
not sure.
I wouldn't bank on that at the moment.
Lydia says, Jez, will you report directly from Gamescom? Time for Rand to come to Europe rather than Jez coming to Los Angeles.
I'm not sure at the moment. There's a chance that maybe I'll do Gamescom, but I ain't paying for it myself, and I don't think my company will pay for it. So, I can't afford to buy a hotel and cover it on my own, out of my own pocket anymore. But if my company wants me to go, then I'll do it. But I ain't gonna beg them for it.
Yeah.
Because I also don't want to get COVID.
Raymaster says, "What do you guys think about the Microsoft Activision deal with so many people trying to stop it from going through? I'm kind of worried." Jez has been worried. Jez is very worried.
I'm worried.
I'm
pretty worried.
You are pretty worried. In my,
I'm pretty worried. Yeah.
You're of the opinion that you don't think it's going through. You think it's going to get stopped somehow. Now you've told me that multiple times.
I exaggerate a lot when I talk to you.
Yeah, you do. It's not very nice either.
But you know, I'm honestly 50-50 on it, you know, and I'm pretty cynical and pessimistic in general. You know, like when talking about Final Fantasy VII earlier, I was saying, well, you know, if you don't expect it, then you can't be disappointed, right? I kind of feel that way about this deal. Like I think it could fall through. I think there's a non-trivial chance that it could fall through. We've seen Nvidia fail to acquire ARM, and obviously that had vast implications for the chip industry. Though this doesn't have the same kind of implications from a competition perspective that Nvidia acquiring ARM did, but it has psychological implications because Call of Duty is a massive franchise, and you know, Activision as a company is quite tied up with a lot of political stuff. Like a lot of their executives donate to the GOP, you know, for example. And I often wonder, like, will that aspect of it sort of, you know, bias some of the people involved in, you know, legislating some of this stuff? Like, you know, all of these sort of possibilities run from my mind because, you know, this is it has become political. It's become a political thing. Like attacking big tech is now in vogue. It's like it's something that, you know, from both sides they want to regulate big tech. Like one side wants to regulate big tech because they think they're being censored by big tech, and the other side wants to regulate big tech because they think they're making too much money and not paying enough tax or whatever. You know, so both sides want to rein in big tech, and it's like it's become a narrative and a talking point in the media, and it's something that, you know, everyone's fighting over and whatever. And I feel like because of the vast size of this deal, there's so many ways that it could go wrong or could get scuppered, you know. But I'm also not someone who's had experience acquiring a $70 billion company before. You know, I'm not someone who has this kind of experience. So a lot of my impressions about this are purely born from cynicism, pessimism, and, you know, thinking about what the worst case scenarios are. Clearly, Microsoft believes that they can get this done, or they wouldn't even bother to make an offer. Clearly, they believe it. Clearly, they've got high-paid lawyers, high-paid, powerful lawyers who have suggested that they can get this done. Clearly, they believe they'll get it done, or they wouldn't have even started the ball rolling. So, you know, I still err on the side that it will get done. But I also think it's going to be a hard uphill battle, and everybody involved in getting that deal through deserves like a month vacation after it closes. So yeah.
Bear says, could Redfall be a shadow drop in summer? I don't think so. I think it's coming out in October. I think around Halloween. I don't know. I always kind of just looked at the idea of summer for that game, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think so. What else we got here? Glitch Doctor says, Rand and Jez, speaking of remakes earlier, do one of you guys know who owns the legacy of Kane IP? Is it Crystal Dynamics or Square Enix? I would assume Square, because they own Crystal Dynamics, right?
Yeah, well, Crystal's owned by Square, so everything that Crystal owns, Square owns. So yeah, Legacy of Kain's owned by Square Enix. And they haven't done anything with it for a million years.
Justin says Legacy of Kain is owned by Activision. I don't think that's true.
No, it's owned by Square Enix.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's owned by Square Enix.
What else we got here? Infurious One says Spartacus turned out to be Farticus.
Wait, what?
He was just making fun of PlayStation Spartacus.
Oh, right. I actually forgot that existed for a moment. That really did turn out to be nowhere near the threat that some people thought it would be.
I mean, they just combined PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus. I mean, whatever.
I think this is why companies hate leaks. The fact that this leaked and it was tied to Game Pass in the headlines, that created an expectation that Sony probably didn't want out there, you know. So like it's with me talking about this being a battle royale, like Projekt Tatanka being a battle royale. Like it could come out that it's like it's not battle royale at all. It could just be like a big sort of team battle plus kind of mode or something like that. But I pretty like 95% sure it is battle royale at this point.
Yeah, Wolf Assassin has been a member for 10 months. That says, can Xbox just acquire a certain affinity already? Clearly, Microsoft trusts them enough for so many projects. If not them, then who? I mean, I think they're clearly. I mean, the CEO liked the tweet about Microsoft acquiring them. They do a lot of projects with Xbox. I think it's only a matter of time. I think it all really depends on how some of these things go, especially with other studios that Xbox is working with. So I think it's really just a matter of time. Parksy says, Rand Jez, where or what do you think the Forza Horizon DLC will be? I'd love to see Disney Cars crossover. And it's interesting because I was actually talking to Colt about this the other day. Did you know that by now the first Horizon DLC was out for Forza Horizon 4? Like Forza Horizon 4's Treasure Mountain, I think it was called, or I forget the name of the first DLC. That launched in like March. And then the Lego stuff launched in June. So both DLCs, expansions for Forza Horizon 4 were out by June. And we're already in April, and we don't have any announcements about any of the Forza DLCs. So I would imagine we'll probably get the first announcement of the Forza DLC at the game showcase. And it'll probably launch right around there. The second one, maybe at the end of the year, maybe a 1-year anniversary thing.
Could they do like a shadow drop? Like, this is the DLC and it's out now.
Yeah, I mean, they announced the Lego thing at the game showcase, and then it was out like 3 days later. That was in 2019, I believe.
Oh, right.
Do you have any? I know because you did find out about the Forza stuff early. Do you have any inclination about the Forza DLC situation?
No, actually. I haven't got any information about this. I knew that Forza was going to be set in Mexico. I can't even remember how I found that out. Man, I really need to keep notes.
You do need, because I remember how you found out, but I'm not going to say it.
I can't remember how I found that.
And then you tweeted about it, and you put like what Mexican cars and like a Mexican sombrero or something in a tweet or whatever.
Nah,
you vroom
a
vroom.
car with the flag. And
and you like you want it. Yeah, and I think Grub then retweeted you or whatever, and was like,
yeah.
What else we got?
Go ahead, Grub.
Euromouse says, no questions, best Xbox podcast in the world, in my opinion. Keep at it. Thanks you so much for the support and that, the fact that you think we're the best Xbox podcast in the world when there's so many. So I know people can listen to tons of different podcasts, so it means a lot to me, Jez, that people choose to listen to ours. What else we got here? Zatanna says, what are your thoughts on a Mortal Kombat Battle Royale? Well, how would that work, a Mortal Kombat Battle Royale?
How would that work? As a side-scrolling fighting game? Unless it was like...
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work.
3D combat like Devil May Cry or something.
Finesseful says, will Microsoft go for Warner Brothers games if Activision falls through? No, because I don't think Discovery's interested in selling anymore. No, I think they value their game stuff highly, so... I think me and Jez both agreed that I think WB Games is off the table for acquisitions for anybody at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
Who knows 5 years from now, judging on how the games perform and stuff. But right now, I think they keep them. Which is a shame because I really wanted WB Games. But oh well, what are you gonna do? Can't get everything you want, right?
Yeah.
Rand, Good Soxer says, Rand, do you have any idea what's going on with Forza Horizon 5? I personally really enjoyed the game, but it only has a 3-star rating on the Microsoft Store. I don't know. I actually did see that. A lot of the highly played games on Xbox have low ratings. I don't know why. Maybe it was from the time where Forza had some problems, but I'm not really sure.
I think it's the PC version.
Oh, yeah. I guess it could be the PC version. What else here? GKN says, what are the chances that Xbox gets studios like That's No Moon, Humanoid Studios, which is by former BioWare dev Casey Hudson, Stoic, Avalanche, Brassline, Interactive, which is closer? The thing about acquisitions is, who knows? Microsoft is in talks all the time with a lot of people. So's PlayStation. So's many other. It's like expecting the. That's why, that's why I don't believe people when they have information about acquisitions that are weeks and months out. Day of for sure. But like hours beforehand, sure. But like those things are just, they normally don't leak like that. So I could give my opinion on who I would want them to grab, but that's all it really is opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, IO Interactive may not want to be acquired. So it doesn't happen. You know, takes two to tango on all this stuff. So that's why it's really, to say who's closer, I mean, who knows? I mean, there was at one point, Jez was convinced that Bungie was about to get purchased by Xbox back in, 2019?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen, you know, so it's
I never wrote it up, but I had a strong feeling that it was going to happen.
I mean, hell, there were people last year.
I knew they were for sale.
There were people last year that were convinced Avalanche was happening, and it was already a done deal, and it wasn't the case. So, Piet says, "Is there any new info about 1 versus 100?" I don't think so. Jeff was the one that talked about that, and I don't think he's talked about it since. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions, or at least I skipped over. Oh, here we go. Gary says, do you think it's possible for Microsoft and Valve to partner on a game, especially with how many canceled games and prototypes they went through the last 10 to 15 years? Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see Valve partnering with Microsoft on a game. So,
yeah, I don't think so.
Any more? No, I think that's it. I think that's all the questions I've seen. So, once again, guys, thank you so much for being here. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Xbox 2 with hopefully a lot more stuff to talk about. And I'll just say now, there definitely will be videos in between now and then. So, I'll be back with videos. So, make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button on your way out. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever, we appreciate you as well. And if you could do us a favor, leave us a review. 5 stars, 1 star. We'd appreciate any feedback. So to help the podcast get more people to check it out. And with that, we will see you guys next week. Keep it gaming. Later.
Take care, everybody.